Zhuo Fan's hand is around Lu Zai's throat before the man can finish his denial, and the antidote he's demanding might not exist at all. When even a soul-bursting attack can't crack this array, it turns out the real barrier is knowing who to trust. Leave a like and subscribe to see which debts get paid in blood. With a heavy step, dark energies swirled around Zhuo Fan as he made his way to Lu Zai. His eyes flashed with bloodthirst. Lu Zai froze, shaking all over. "Steward Zhuo, what's the meaning of this?" "I haven't done anything wrong." The rest were tense, but not enough to make them talk. PFF, Zhuo Fan got next to Lu Zai and clutched his throat, lifting him off the ground. The overwhelming aura made breathing hard as he demanded, "Where is the antidote?" "Antidote." Lu Zai's brow shook with understanding. Zhuo Fan still cares about that broad. He used to think Zhuo Fan's cold front implied he did not give a damn about that woman, but he was holding it in to settle the accounts now. Lu Zai's heart was filled with indignity as he croaked, "Steward Zhuo, you can't do this to me. I have given my all for the sect. You didn't punish someone that forfeited, but you go after me for harming some woman. Where's the fairness in that?" "Zhuo Fan," Lu Zai had fought hard just now. "I understand you want the antidote, but you can't just demand it like this." Fiend Yang found an excellent excuse to try and talk some sense into him. Zhuo Fan snorted, "This is my business. Any that interferes will be severely punished. I will be the judge here about what is excessive or not. You have no say in this. Don't think for a second Venerable she can protect you. You have always gone against me all the way here. Ignorant fool, hand over the antidote now or else. There isn't one." Lu Zai's brow trembled, feeling the power in Zhuo Fan's grip. "My poison isn't deadly. She will suffer for 49 days and that's it. The judge had given his verdict, so I didn't dare kill anyone. I'm also afraid Double Dragon Manor will interfere. Otherwise, the other side's elders would have also asked for the antidote, don't you think?" Zhuo Fan's eye twitched, and his heart filled with rage. His body was flooded with a raging power current as the black energy roamed all over Lu Zai before entering his body. Lu Zai felt like a tight black net robbed him of all movements as it ate away at his body. He had never felt such danger before, sweating buckets in fear. Zhuo Fan was going to kill him over some woman. Zhuo Fan's icy eyes felt like a sucking abyss, his voice eerie, "Hand over the antidote or you'll get out of my sight for good." "Wait, Zhuo Fan, he just said there isn't any. The woman is in no danger as well. This is still the Double Dragon Gathering and we need all the help we can get. You can't just kill him." Fiend Yang tried to reason with him. Zhuo Fan wouldn't hear it. The black energy coiled more and more around Lu Zai, moments away from enveloping him in complete darkness. The Venerable was panicking yet still didn't make a move to stop him. Lu Zai could no longer hold it and cried, Wait, I have the antidote." Lu Zai's hand shone and a vial appeared. Fiend Yang stood agape and then glared at him. The prick had the antidote all along. He could have just handed it over from the start, but he had to make us all worried for nothing. Bam, not even sparing him a glance, Zhuo Fan flung him away. As he slammed to the ground, he spat blood, and the vial in his hand soared through the air and into Zhuo Fan's hand. Zhuo Fan eyed the rest with a cold gaze. Every poison user has an antidote for their poisons, lest they get poisoned as well. Maybe some extremely deadly poisons do not, so the enemy will never survive, but as for the milder ones, especially used in torture, they are bound to have an antidote. "The next time I do something, stay out of my way." Fiend Yang was embarrassed, then glared at Lu Zai. This bastard was faking it all along so much that we even bought it. Zhuo Fan ignored them, walking away. But just after a few steps, he stopped again, looking baffled. "Long time no see, Zhuo Fan." A familiar figure stood in the doorway of their courtyard. Zai Tiansheng came along with two girls, Xuenger and Yangning. The girls looked from Lu Zai, bleeding on the ground, to Zhuo Fan's dark expression and gasped. They had never seen him so furious before. Zai Tiansheng hardly cared, evident by his smile. "Ever since what happened to Ninger at the esoteric debate, I never saw you so out of control. Edifice Lord Chu must have made some progress, I see, ha ha ha. Zai Tiansheng, why are you here? Are you representing Tianyu as well?" "Not at all. While you did not notice me in the sect's stands, I had a clear view of your arrogant and overbearing self." "Ha ha ha, you haven't changed a bit after all these years." Zai Tiansheng's gaze sharpened. "Zhuo Fan, do you remember my old goal? Since you left Tianyu, then I did as well. I am now a disciple of the Sword God sect, competing in the middle three sects. I'll be waiting." Zhuo Fan frowned and gave the nod after a pause. He flicked his sleeve and threw the vial. "Let's leave that aside for now and help me with this." Zai Tiansheng caught it and chuckled, just like always, exercising extreme caution, never doing it yourself. "All right, I'll deliver the antidote for you." Zai Tiansheng turned around and walked for a few steps before looking back at the girls. "How about you two come along? You haven't met with Edifice Lord Chu yet, have you? Come on, if you know your enemy and yourself, you'll surely win, ha ha ha." Zai Tiansheng went on with a faint smile as the girls tensed. They shared a glance, then looked from Zhuo Fan to the disciplined Lu Zai bleeding on the ground. Their eyes lit up and rushed to follow. They didn't even greet Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan grumbled for a bit, then left as well. With them gone, the heavy mood slowly returned to normal. Fiend Yang sighed and couldn't help but a curse. You idiot, are you that blind to not see how much Zhuo Fan cares about that woman? And you struck her. You must be damn lucky you got away from Zhuo Fan in one piece. But didn't they break it off? Didn't they both say they'll go all out the next time they meet? Lu Zai gnashed his teeth. Kui Lang sighed. They said one thing, but their hearts thought another. In this world, when a man meets a woman, what they say and what they feel are opposite. They might say they won't hold back, but who is to say that will truly happen when they meet again? The girl didn't skewer you because of Steward Zhuo, and Steward Zhuo almost killed you because of her. This is called saying one thing and doing another. In any case, you just had a brush with death. Shit. Why the hell are they faking then, and why am I taking the fall for their duplicity? Lu Zai was raging mad. Venerable, I was just following your advice to be ruthless to those bastards that burn bridges. No, you're not dumping this on me. I was talking about the others and did not say that girl specifically. You could have at least come to this conclusion yourself and thought of Zhuo Fan. Fiend Yang was waving all over as he tried to get out of this mess. Zhuo Fan was right in the end. He had put up with you for too long. You not once showed an ounce of respect all the way here. Everything else he may overlook, but this time you have struck where it hurt him the most. Did you not see how he dealt with Yanmo? You got what was coming to you this time. I have been around more than you and can tell. In matters between a man and a woman, it's best not to get involved or this is how you'll end up. Fiend Yang finished his reprimand and Kui Lang followed, making him sullen and angry. What the hell did I get into? I was just beaten up and now seen as an outsider. And that Zhuo Fan, he was going to kill his teammates over some woman? How is he fit to lead us? But then he looked around and all he saw were faces saying he got what was coming. He was fuming mad. God damn it, Zhuo Fan, just you wait. You haven't seen the end of this. Mark my words. Lu Zai gnashed his teeth, his eyes sinister as he looked at everyone around him. These people, teammates for lack of a better word, were Zhuo Fan's lackeys, taking every one of his words as law, even ignoring the good of the sect. His heart just could not accept it. This resentment was bound to be the seed of calamity. King Cheng, how are you feeling? The cramped room was now crowded with Shui Ruohua and others all looking worriedly at Chu King Cheng, sitting cross-legged on the bed. The floating light green traces from her body made her body tremble and her face contort in pain. Xuan Sheiyu gnashed his teeth as he cursed. Those repulsive demonic cultivators even resorted to sneak attacks, and heavy-handedly too. We don't even know if Sister King Cheng will be all right. She took so many pills and antidotes, but none of them worked. Danner shouted in anger. Everyone gave a nod of worry. Only Elder Yun waved his hand, his voice calm. It's fine, you guys don't need to make such a fuss. I inspected King Cheng and found her life wasn't in danger. This is Double Dragon Manor. How can anyone just resort to murder? Just that these days, King Cheng will be in suffering and pain. Humph, damn those demonic cultivators, making junior sister King Cheng suffer so much. I will never forget this. Xuan Sheiyu gnashed his teeth. The rest were just as angry. Young Master Elder Zai Tianqing of Sword God Sect has paid a visit. A shout came from outside the house. The first middle three sects. The two looked at each other, then wondered, what is someone from the first middle three sects doing here? While they were wondering, the pained Chu King Cheng opened her eyes. She had a faint smile as she said, show him in. He is an old friend from Tianyu. He must want to see me. Another old friend? Xuan Sheiyu's mood darkened. Not another shady pursuer, is it? He said, junior sister King Cheng can't receive guests in her state. It's better if you don't see him. Wait, young master. Elder Yun spoke first, advising, a simple old acquaintance of King Cheng could be sent off, but he has the Sword God Sect behind him. We can't ignore them. It's best to receive him still. Xuan Sheiyu was annoyed by Elder Yun's idea, but could only nod, even as his mind was frantic. Zai Tianqing brought Yun Shuang and Yang Ning along. After greeting Elder Yun, he noticed Chu King Cheng sweating and pale. He cupped his hands. Edifice Lord Chu, it's been a long time. Have you been well? Enough of your crap. Can't you see she isn't well at all? Danner rolled her eyes as she grumbled. The others fell silent. He only said that in passing, yet you got annoyed so fast. Chu King Cheng patted her shoulder. Zai Tianqing chuckled and bowed again. Forgive me for my crudeness. Edifice Lord Chu, I have witnessed how you got poisoned, and I have brought a secret antidote from my sect that should alleviate the pain. Zai Tianyang presented the vial. Chu King Cheng's eyes lit up and she nodded. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Zai. Please, we have the same homeland. There's no need for that. Zai Tianqing smiled and handed it over. Shui Ruohua gave it to Chu King Cheng, who was still trembling in pain. Young Master Zai, King Cheng had taken many pills, but none helped. Could it be that this? It will work, Zai Tianqing smiled with conviction. Chu King Cheng smiled as well. I believe so as well. She opened the vial and took the pill. She remained cross-legged, meditating quietly. The others were still looking at her nervously, but after 15 minutes something magical happened. Chu Qingcheng's trembling stopped. Her face became rosy and the green energy around her slowly faded away. "Young Master Zai, your pill is amazing. It actually worked." Danner's eyes lit up. Zai Tiansheng simply smiled in reply, while Xuan Sheiyu and Elder Yun were amazed by the middle three sex power. "I don't know what that poison was, but it was removed so easily. Is this a universal antidote, I wonder?" Chu Qingcheng revealed the answer soon enough. She opened her eyes and smiled. "Ha ha ha, he's still the same, never wanting to take credit for anything. You knew. Of course, such a specialized antidote can only come from the poisoner himself." Chu Qingcheng was filled with happiness. Shui Ruohua asked curiously, "Qingcheng, you said the antidote belongs to the poisoner. Does that mean it's demon scheming sex Lu Zai?" "Yes, it's his, though I bet he wasn't so keen on giving it." Zai Tiansheng spoke like she knew everything. Zai Tiansheng smiled and nodded. "Edifice Lord Chu, it's like you're him to know him so well. Just as I went to see him, he was beating up the guy to force him to give the antidote. But you know his style. He would never admit to doing such a kind act. He's just as stubborn as always behind that cold face. I've seen him do it too many times in the esoteric debate." Chu Qingcheng's gaze wandered, recalling the fond memories. The girls were even more puzzled. Danner asked, "Senior sister, you can't mean that Zhuo Fan gave you the antidote, can you? He had even been scolding you on stage to be crueler and forget the past. And he only did it because he pitied me, not wanting me to be in danger again. In fact, I was quite happy to hear him say that. As for his coldness, ha ha ha, he's always been like this." Chu Qingcheng did not mind it in the least. The girls were speechless. What is it between these two exactly? It just feels more complicated by the day. Xuan Sheiyu was very hateful right then. The antidote came from him again. He would have surely stopped it if he knew. He could never allow the two to contact each other, even if it meant offending Sword God sect. Zai Tiansheng nodded and sighed. "Edifice Lord Chu, you have changed over the years. You used to be so forceful and tough. Sometimes you'd be so scared by that arrogant and almighty Zhuo Fan you'd never see him." "Really?" Danner looked intrigued at Chu Qingcheng, but she flicked the girl's nose, gave her a deep look, and the girl shied back. Chu Qingcheng sighed. "I used to want an explanation from him at all cost, but after I saw how far he went for Ninger, I knew. This man has his own path, and I should let him take it." "Ninger?" Chu Qingcheng was roused by the voice and looked at Yangning. "You know Ninger. Then you aren't Sword God sect disciples either." Zai Tiansheng smiled. "Let me introduce you. She is Tianyu's princess, Yangning, and this is Tianyu's holy maiden, Yun Shuang. They are both Edifice Lord Chu's main rivals." "You should be careful." Yangning and Shuinger were put on the spot. Chu Qingcheng simply smiled at Zai Tiansheng, who'd have thought the great martial fanatic of yesteryear would crack jokes. Then she looked deeply at Yun Shuang, your Shuinger. "Peony Overseer said in her messages that Zhuo Fan declared in front of everyone that he wanted you. I must say, with your pure look, you sure bear a striking resemblance to Ninger." No, please don't say that." Shuinger panicked, her face going beet red. Then she said quietly, "I was only his pawn. Nothing actually happened." "A pawn?" The girls looked at each other and anger appeared on their faces. To treat such a nice girl as a pawn, that Zhuo Fan is a cold bastard. Xuan Sheiyu used this chance to fling dirt, hear that. That vile demon only knows how to deceive innocent girls. Qingcheng, you must see him for who he is and not buy into his lies. He first had you injured and now sent someone with the antidote. He clearly wants to get to you. You must not let him. I know him far better than you ever will." Chu Qingcheng sneered, her smile icy. "Besides, as long as he is safe, I don't care if I become his pawn. What I fear is that he'll abandon me without even finding a use for me." The girls watched Chu Qingcheng in shock. This prideful ice queen wanted to become someone's pawn, forever by his side. Was this still the same cold and determined beauty of before? While Elder Yun shook his head, Xuan Sheiyu was fuming mad because of this. The poor lass had fallen victim to a vile demonic cultivator. "Qingcheng, wake up, you've been taken in by that demon." Shui Ruohua shook Chu Qingcheng and shouted at her. Chu Qingcheng shook her head. "Senior sister, I have been taken in, but that is because I wanted to." "Nonsense. How is it logical to let yourself be bewildered?" Shui Ruohua did not believe it. Chu Qingcheng gave up, turning to Shuinger and gesturing the two to come over. Shuinger and Yangning tensed in front of their arch-rival in love. "She won't do anything to us, will she?" But the two relented at Chu Qingcheng's bright smile that looked like an angel's. Chu Qingcheng smiled. "I know you both want to be by his side, but to do this you must understand him. You must also know what happened to Ninger. I heard from the Luo clan that Zhuo Fan saved her in the end, but she forgot about him, so he let her go," Yangning said. Chu Qingcheng nodded. "You know some, but not everything, not what he went through to do it. I was still stubborn back then, forcing him to accept me. Chu Qingcheng began narrating the days of old, from how the seven houses conflict started, to Zhuo Fan's cruel path, of Ninger's death, of Zhuo Fan's fall to madness, of his struggle and his white hair. She had told them everything, every little detail, well, except the part about her and Zhuo Fan separating because of it, going to different sects. Whether it was telling her story or Zhuo Fan's, she always had that reminiscing smile. It was then that I knew this man was far from dead inside. He is only holding himself back is all. The path he threads is destined to be cruel and cold, so how could I want to be an obstacle? That's why I left, so that he would never fall into such despair again after what happened to Ninger. If he is safe, I will be content. Chu Qingcheng smiled at Shui Ruohua. I'm so happy to find that he still cares about me. That's why I was glad when he asked senior sister about me. The girls were taken aback. They would never have imagined a cruel and cold demonic cultivator like Zhuo Fan would go through such pain and agony. When Ninger woke up, he did not cling to her, but let her go for her own good. Chu Qingcheng had made the same choice then as well, all for him. They all sensed that even by walking different paths, righteous and demonic, they were actually so similar. To them, the factions had no meaning, not when they knew each other completely. The girls instantly had the desire to play matchmaker. Yun Shuang and Yang Ning lowered their bashful heads, coming to see just how little they knew Zhuo Fan compared to Chu Qingcheng. What right did they have to be with him? Xuan Sheiyu had long since been grinding his teeth in silence. The two had too many deep memories. It was impossible to make her forget about that bastard. So what was left to be said about his chances? I see, so that's why Edifice Lord Chu does not cling to him, because you trust him completely. Zai Tiansheng sighed, but by the looks of it, he will always be conflicted. Which is more important, the demonic path or love? This will be his final trial. I only hope he will be able to overcome it quickly and get stronger with it. That way I can also follow my goal by following him forever. The girls raised an eyebrow. That's some bromance. Zai Tiansheng noticed their quirky looks and was baffled. What, did I say something wrong? Outside of Mystical Heaven's sex courtyard in a remote corner stood a tall man, Zhuo Fan. Ever since Zai Tiansheng entered, he had been standing here for 6 hours. He only wanted to see him come out, proving that Chu Qingcheng was all right. Whoosh, someone flashed behind him and said in a familiar tone, spreading a strong scent of alcohol, "Ha ha ha, you just can't let her go, can you?" Zhuo Fan looked back to see the drunk Danking Shen smiling at him. "Senior, how are you still here?" Zhuo Fan asked. Danking Shen said, "He, I told you, there's no place that can bar me on these lands. I can go wherever I want. What, you have a problem with people coming from behind?" No, you can do what you wish." Zhuo Fan's face twitched. Danking Shen gave him a long look, then snickered. "Why does love exist in this world? To teach people about the meaning of life. Kid, if you want that last, just go get her. What's there to be conflicted about? Senior, please don't joke. You know as well that this isn't my path." Zhuo Fan sighed inside. Danking Shen nodded. "Oh, quite true. That only means you're fickle. You had 2 girls and now you got a third one. You don't deserve her. What about all those bachelors? Leave some for them." "Senior, don't joke." "You know what I mean." Zhuo Fan's face twitched again and he sighed. "I walk the demonic path, a dead road filled with cruelty and no emotions. How can I let emotions take me? If I do, it will harm me and especially her. So why bother? The past is a living testament to that." Danking Shen gave him a long look, then said, "Then what are you standing around here for? Since you're dead inside, kill all emotions. Standing out here spying on a girl's window is doing neither of you any good." "Senior is right, but after all that has happened, I just can't let go." Zhuo Fan sighed. "I never owed anyone a favor. I have only had others owe me. The minute I owe someone, it would be very hard to pay it back." Danking Shen grinned. He, a story. I just love stories. Come here and tell me. Maybe I can help you solve your troubles." All right. It's my fortune to have senior's care." Zhuo Fan began narrating the 7 houses conflicts, the esoteric debate in every detail. Saving Ninger was my problem. She had nothing to do with it. In the end, she was forced to go to Mystical Heaven's sect so I could save Ninger. I don't even know what kind of conditions she had to accept either. I just don't know when I will ever be able to return the favor. If I don't, then I will never know peace for as long as I live." Zhuo Fan shook his head. Danking Shen turned serious as well. "A strange girl indeed. To save your friend, she trapped herself. Now I understand why you regarded Lu Zai's attack as if he attacked your friends. This is a heavy debt. The only way I can see it returned is if you give your heart and soul for her. Hey, senior, I'm a demonic cultivator here." Yeah, a dead and cruel path, yada yada," Danking Shen said casually, then turned solemn. "Kid, I may not be a demonic cultivator and don't understand your way, but all paths lead to the truth, the Tao. That at least I do know. Even on the emotionless and cruel path, you need to feel first before you can squash your emotions. How else can you remove something that wasn't there to begin with? Just like us righteous cultivators who pursue justice, where would justice be if not for evil? How would you know justice without understanding evil? Here's an example. That universal righteous sect, they just love preaching justice left and right, but how many do you think are aware of what that even means? Is justice fighting some demonic cultivators? That's not even breaking the surface, Zhuo Fan pondered, having noticed the wisdom but had yet to unravel its profound meaning. It seemed there was a thick shroud covering his sight, never lifting. Kid, Danking Shen sighed, you have so many girls around you, yet only that lass is a bit special. I thought you were serious about her, but after hearing your story, I'm having second thoughts. Do you feel guilty about her, or is it really love? Zhuo Fan frowned and shook his head. I do not know. Ha ha ha, you're still naive. Danking Shen shook his head. Then let this old man teach you. Close your eyes and recall that perfect moment of bliss and happiness. Zhuo Fan did so and relaxed, his mind at peace. Through the stream of memories, he only found two that fit the old man's question. I have two peaceful memories. One is in the Albeast mountain range with Ninger and Zai Tianyang. Ha ha ha, three people's happiness. Danking Shen shook his head, but they are nothing more than your precious friends. That's not the one. There's no such thing as happiness between three people. One always finds himself a third wheel. Ha ha ha. Then there's the other in a rundown house. How many? Danking Shen asked. Two. Man. Woman, who is she? Danking Shen shouted now. Zhuo Fan opened his eyes and his face grew grave. Danking Shen laughed. That one is where your heart is. Whether or not it is this lass, only your heart knows. Ha ha ha. Danking Shen was gone with that last laugh, leaving Zhuo Fan alone and sighing. What am I supposed to do? 3 days, that was how long Zhuo Fan was cooped up in his room, with one leg over the other and not moving a muscle. He had been at this ever since he saw Zai Tiansheng coming out of that courtyard, showing that the antidote was effective and Chu Qingcheng had recovered. Today was when the middle three sects stage began, yet he did not feel like inspecting his enemies, letting Fiend Yang take the disciples to watch the fight. Zhuo Fan frowned deeply. His mind was uncertain, filled with Danking Shen's words. How did one remove love when it wasn't even there? This was one question he had never thought about. Maybe he had been on this lonely road of demonic cultivation for so long that he had gotten used to being alone and everything going his way. But heaven played a sick joke on him, bringing him back and tying him down again and again. He could no longer go back to just being a demonic cultivator. Was it heaven's way of taunting him, or maybe a trial? Maybe young Xuanji was right. This is my chance to restart my demonic path. It was just that this path was too foreign that he did not know how to proceed. Unlike the breezy demonic path he trod in his previous life, he didn't know if this new path would bring him to the pinnacle of Tao. Just what am I to do? Demonic cultivation emphasized a dead heart. Once emotions sprouted, they would drag him back. But how was one supposed to remove them when one had yet to experience them? This is so messed up. If one took those emotions to train in the demonic path, would these emotions remain pure? Could they be called the feelings one had at first? They were nothing more than a means to an end. But if one fell to emotion, how could one just up and cut them off? If they could be removed so easily, why then still call it true love? Holy shit, if I see it as a trial, that means no path is the right one. Zhuo Fan facepalmed, hesitating if he should insist on going down this road. Better go with the flow and trust where my heart takes me. If it were so, would he ever return to his demonic path? I'm only getting further and further away. Feeling powerless, Zhuo Fan just did not know what to do. He had been in his man cave for these 3 days, struggling with his greatest problem yet. It just goes to show my previous path was too plain. Zhuo Fan, another dark horse, showed up. I don't think we'll even get to pass the middle three sects fight now. A shout came from outside the courtyard. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes at Fiend Yang's distraught voice, turning over and resuming his conflicting thoughts. Bam. He was in for a rude awakening as Fiend Yang just would not let him, smashing the door open, rushing over, and shaking every bone in his body. Damn brat, don't you know anything besides sleeping? You'll get all the sleep you want when you're dead. We have more important things to worry about right now. What's the hurry? Aren't we challenging the middle three sects tomorrow? Just leave it, leave your ass. Zhuo Fan's lazy attitude ticked Fiend Yang off. Damn brat, you did not come to see the middle three sects stage. Do you know how it ended? Don't wanna. Why you? Fiend Yang's face twitched in rage. He worked hard to keep it bottled up and prevent it from leaking into his voice. You wouldn't be so relaxed if you had seen what happened at the middle three sects stage. I bet you'd freak out more than me. Sword God sect is a freak of nature. All 10 of its disciples are in the ethereal stage, even your old friend. Zhuo Fan recalled his old friend, then nodded. Oh, right, I never paid him much attention when he came. But now that you mention it, his aura did place him in the ethereal stage. He's always been a martial fanatic, a genius cultivator, but for him to enter the ethereal stage so fast is beyond my expectations. The middle three sects sure are rich. Well, congrats to him. Congrats your sister, you still have the free time to care about someone else. He is our greatest threat. Fiend Yang was itching to smack some sense into the sloppy Zhuo Fan, but he reined it in. Dude, you're our leader. Can't you show some interest? Sword God Sex lineup is as strong as a superior 3 sex. Do you know how they fared in the matches? They won all of them, both singles and teams. Demon Soul Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect haven't won once. Zhuo Fan looked at him curiously. That amazing? Yes, that amazing. Fiend Yang sighed. Sword God Sect has always been the top middle 3 sects, but the other 2 sects weren't this far behind. Even with the superior 3 sects dominance over the middle 3 sects, none of the superior 3 sects could guarantee such a complete victory. Fiend Yang's worry grew as he sighed. And then there's that gentle sword. He showed great power, but I am sure he didn't go all out. The entire Sword God sect came prepared, then they even gave us taunting looks. They clearly aren't afraid of us, or more particularly, you. They must have something ready for you. That's what worries me the most. Oh, then we should be more careful. Zhuo Fan nodded, finally getting serious. I'll just have to use my foolproof strategy to make losing impossible. Fiend Yang lit up. You have such a thing. Tell me, we don't fight them. We can't lose if we don't fight. Zhuo Fan grinned, or we'll just have to settle being a middle 3 sect. Fiend Yang's face twitched, and his eyes were burning with a newfound rage he could no longer contain. Zhuo Fan, is that how you don't lose? Shit, who was it that said we'll challenge the superior 3 sects? It was you who proclaimed such great design. But now that you met the Sword God sect blocking your path, you shy away. You're nothing more than, with an unbridled yawn, Zhuo Fan walked away as Fiend Yang was in the middle of his rant. He had more pressing things to worry about, like his inner conflict. Other stuff was just extra. He cared even less about some good of the sect motto. Getting them in the middle 3 sects was enough to fulfill his end of the bargain with Zai Yu, superior 3 sects. Ha ha ha, that's your problem. Fiend Yang felt powerless at Zhuo Fan's disinterest. This young master is so damn stubborn, only doing things based on his mood. If he were in good spirits, he'd be arrogant and fight everything under the sky. If he were in the dumps, he would rather sit back. What a pain in the ass, and there's no way to deal with him. Steward Zhuo, venerable people from the Heaven Trailing Sect have come to see you, Kui Lang shouted as he entered. Looking at Fiend Yang's red face and Zhuo Fan's laid-back attitude, he knew what had happened, so he bowed and declared. Fiend Yang glanced at Zhuo Fan. We've been here for so long already and haven't paid each other any visits. So why is it today they come to us? Punk, this isn't over. We'll talk when I get back. Fiend Yang slammed his hand hard on Zhuo Fan's shoulder and left in a huff. Zhuo Fan had a faint smile on his face. Kui Lang did not disturb him and closed the door behind him. Zhuo Fan then recalled something and shouted, Hey, Kui Lang, come back, I want to ask you something. Steward Zhuo, is there anything you need? Kui Lang bowed. Zhuo Fan waved his hand, turning dead serious. Kui Lang, you and your one must have a deep love for each other, right? Why else would you forfeit knowing it could kill you? She keeps me at peace. She chases my fears. All right, I got it, you don't need to mention it. Kui Lang looked at the sky sorrowfully, but Zhuo Fan cut him off right as he started. I just wanted to ask. You know, demonic cultivation is emotionless, so why do you do this for? Kui Lang gave him a long look, then sighed. Steward Zhuo, I know the sect has a rule not to fraternize. But love is like a torrent, sweeping anything in its path. I have been around and understand this better than most, both its sweet and bitter sides with all in between. All I can say is that I have no regrets. Even when I got cast down to being a laborer, you misunderstood me. This isn't about the sex rules. I'm talking about the demonic path. Now that you've known love so much, it's hard to progress. Why did you dive in without hesitating? Kui Lang had a strange look. Steward Zhuo, I may be a disciple on the demonic path, but I haven't once thought about it. I only followed what others did and did not break the sex rules. That is all. When I got close to her, I wasn't thinking about anything, just that we might be exposed and suffer for it. Zhuo Fan paused for a moment and nodded. An ordinary cultivator like Kui Lang was still at the start of the demonic path and probably would never traverse it to reach the Tao, so he didn't consider things too much. Zhuo Fan shook his head, feeling foolish. What was I thinking asking him? He doesn't know the difference between a path and a demon. All he does is follow the herd. Because of this, Zhuo Fan admired him. Faced with simple-minded choices, one did not have regrets. You can go. I need some peace and quiet. Zhuo Fan shooed him. Kui Lang nodded and bowed before leaving. But just as he was at the door, he said, Steward Zhuo, I don't know if it's my place to say this. My insight into the demonic path is way shallower than yours and Elder Yuan's, but there is one area I know for certain. I chose the demonic path over the righteous because of their many restrictions. While I do not know what is on your mind, I get the feeling you are also restricted by yourself. Why must you do so? I have been around, and when it comes to emotions or love, I won't hesitate. Why do you suddenly sound so wise? Zhuo Fan shook, and a realization struck him as he gaped at him. Kui Lang scratched his head. I can never be wiser than Steward Zhu, that I know. All I can say is that I know about feelings, ha ha ha. Freedom of action stood at the base of the demonic path, but one could feel restricted by walking down this path. Such a contradiction, Zhu Fan started, returning to the old unanswered problem plaguing his mind. Damn that Ren Kong. How dare he look down on me like it's beneath him to talk to me? This is bullshit. Just when Zhu Fan was finally alone with his thoughts, a loud voice complaining sounded. A bang followed and the door was slammed open again. Fiend Yang stomped inside and saw Zhu Fan. You, the heaven-trailing sect is asking for you. Go see them. Me, what for? Zhu Fan raised an eyebrow. You're a great venerable, aren't you? You're not enough. Of course I am, but those sons of she-dogs have holes for eyes. Fiend Yang grumbled, then sighed. But they want to meet you specifically, so you must go. They are the head of Tianyu's 3 guardian sects. We have to show our respect. Zhu Fan rolled his eyes and went. Fiend Yang led the way to the front of the courtyard. 4 stood inside, looking around while Gui Hu and the others accompanied them. Your place sure is tiny, but what can you expect from a lower 3 sect, ha ha ha. A young master in silken robes fanned himself as he laughed. The 2 youths in green around him laughed as well, looking at Gui Hu with derision. The grizzled old man said nothing. Gui Hu was angry, but the 2 fiends left here stopped him and the other disciples from shouting. Zhu Fan saw this and asked Fiend Yang, is heaven-trailing sect here to look for trouble? Quite the tone they have. I'm not sure, however there hasn't been any issue between our sects, just go there and you'll know. Fiend Yang rolled his eyes. The 2 approached. Gui Hu's side bowed before Steward Zhu and stood aside. The 4 instantly set their eyes on him. The young master snapped his fan closed and barked, so you're the dark horse of the lower 3 sects. I saw you when your sect fought with mystical heaven sect, but why did you not participate? I am not sure how tough you are, but you sure know how to be cocky. You know I'm cocky, yet you come at me with that attitude. Are you itching to be pummeled? Zhu Fan rolled his eyes. That makes 2 of us. Why have you all come here? And for me in particular, ha ha ha, we heard you're running rampant and that the sect cherishes you. The venerables must have exaggerated, so we came to see the truth. The young master showed a nasty smile filled with contempt. Zhu Fan's eyelid twitched. Now he got the gist of what they wanted. They came for a fight. A puny middle 3 sect wants to waste my time? Ha! The young master took Zhu Fan's silence for fear and grew more courageous. Ha ha ha, now don't be so nervous. I came with good intentions. I presume you also saw the middle 3 sects stage today and should already know what to do. I only came here thinking you have been complacent and thought of reminding you how things stand. Demon scheming sect's disciples knew where he was going with this, and their faces fell. Only Zhu Fan played the fool, sporting the same baffled look. How was the result in today's stage anyway? Please tell me. Zhu Fan smiled. The young master's face twitched and turned dark. He glared, are you mocking us when you already know? Humph, we may have had poor results this time in double dragon gatherings, ending up last in the middle 3 sects stage, but nothing a puny and insignificant lower 3 sect could ever compare to. Oh, so you're the runt. Afraid you might end up kicked further down, you came to beg for mercy, is that it? Zhu Fan snickered. Ha ha ha, what a good little doggy, wag your tail for master. But you're missing the right attitude when begging. You'll never get any attention if you keep barking and snarling. Bastard. 2 shouts sounded in unison, one from the young master and the other from the elder, whose pressure had come at Zhu Fan. The elder was furious and shot a palm attack toward his head. Zhu Fan only squinted, standing his ground like a statue and awaiting this reckless old fool's death. Humph, you've gone senile if you think you can beat me in the 5th layer ethereal stage. Bam, the old man's attack never reached Zhu Fan as Fiend Yang blocked the palm. They both staggered 5 steps back before stopping. The old man glared at Fiend Yang, who hurriedly waved his hands. Ha ha ha, Elder Qi, Zhu Fan hasn't been at the fights today. He doesn't know your sect's situation. He wasn't trying to offend your great sect with his ignorance. Please forgive him. Ignorant, then what did he mean by his last words? What dog? Elder Qi grunted. Put on the spot, Fiend Yang chuckled. Zhu Fan had the same stoic face as he said, then why have you come here? We came to warn you to know your place and don't participate in the challenge stage. Just stand aside and watch before you humiliate yourself. The young master mocked Zhu Fan. Zhu Fan sneered, isn't that the same thing? Why would you bother coming here to run your mouths if you aren't scared of us? That only means you're scared. If that is the case, try to at least act like it. Stop with the tough act, I ain't buying it. Why you? The young master was burning with rage and shot his 2 green friends a signal. The 2 nodded and went for Qi Changlong, Bai Lion, and Lu Zai, the strongest disciples. The trio was on guard, knowing they couldn't be careless against these 2, having the same cultivation as them, 3rd layer ethereal stage. But then the 2 vanished and appeared behind them with a palm attack. Bang, 3 explosions sounded, and Qi Changlong with the other 2 was sent flying, bleeding from their mouths. As for the 2 in green, they were back in their spots. Zhuo Fan's heart tensed, a combined attack again. Humph, let this be a warning to you. If you dare meet us on stage, I won't care if we're sects from the same empire. We'll slaughter you, the youth flicked his hand, and he left with his friends in green and elder. Qi Changlong and the others barely got to their feet, their eyes filled with hatred. Zhuo Fan calmed down and said, will you let them have it? We'll give them shit. Why the hell would we do what they want anyway? We'll be the middle 3 sect when we throw them back. Fiend Yang snorted. Zhuo Fan, remember this well. That cocky kid is Ren Kong. He is sect leader Ren's son. You can teach him any lesson you want except killing him. As for the rest, you decide. But those 2 in green are Kong Shan and Kong Lin. They train in the mountain and forest shadow. Their location isn't constant and they are hard to avoid. They almost scored 2 wins from Sword God sect in today's battles, but they met with gentle sword Wen Tao. If not just by score alone, they would have Demon Soul sect beaten, and in second place since Demon Soul sect only had 1 point over them. Thank you, Demon Soul sect, for bringing him to me. See how I'll kick them out of the middle 3 sects. Zhuo Fan snickered and turned to the rest. Tomorrow we'll be fighting together. Roar, the others cheered. After taking a round off of fighting, Steward Zhuo was back in action. Hump, cocky brat of heaven trailing sect, your days are numbered. Meanwhile, Ren Kong and the other 3 looked smug about their success. Elder Qi, the kid isn't much after all. You went to attack, yet he just stood still like a moron. Kong Shan and Kong Lin attacked those disciples, and he still didn't help. Our fears were unfounded, ha ha ha. The 4 came to the demon scheming sect to warn them and test the waters. They hadn't seen Zhuo Fan fight and came to probe him. A shame their testing not only ended up fruitless but even managed to yank the enemy's chain into biting them back harder. They failed because of their stupidity. But the biggest irony was they were oblivious of it. But they say that Zhuo Fan obliterated beast-taming sect's disciples with 1 fist, even the elder. It can't be that he could not even react to my palm attack. Elder Qi found it suspicious. Ren Kong saw it too but waved off his suspicions. Ha ha ha, no need to think too hard about him, Elder Qi. Zhuo Fan is only at the 3rd layer radiant stage. How strong can he be? The rumors must be exaggerated. Why else would he suddenly sit out when every sect was there to see him? I bet he was scaring the middle 3 sects' disciples into surrendering when it came to fighting him. Only petty people resort to petty tricks. As for beast-taming sect's elder's death, Exalted Double Dragons already announced he broke the rules for attacking the guests and was executed by Exalted High Ran. It had nothing to do with that punk. I bet it's just another rumor he instigated to scare others. But not me, yours truly won't fall for it, ha ha ha. Elder Qi regarded Ren Kong and nodded in the end. Young master is wise. I must have gotten too old to fall for a kid's trick. The new is replacing the old, ha ha ha. Ren Kong was extra full of himself, looking at the 2 youths, Kong Shan, Kong Lin, in tomorrow's fights. If the others bought it, make sure you kill Zhuo Fan at once to break their spirit and show everyone what a liar he is. Leave the rest for after, all right? Understood, young master. The 2 nodded. Ren Kong's smile grew wider. Tomorrow, everyone would see how they fell for the kid's inflated lies. Only I, Ren Kong from Heaven Trailing Sect, saw the truth. Since strength can't beat him, I'll use intelligence, hee hee hee. On the morning of the 2nd day, the arena was packed. Even though it was the middle 3 sects challenge stage, the superior 3 sects also showed up. Only this time they were curious about 2 people. One was the darkest horse of all times, hailing from demon scheming sect Zhuo Fan. The other was one who they paid even more attention to since not just him, but his entire sect was the strongest among the middle 3 sects, Gentle Sword Wen Tao from Sword God sect. Ha ha ha, the ever-dauntless superior 3 sects for thousands of years are now stirred, but the one to climb isn't Demon Scheming sect but Sword God sect. I wonder who is going to take the fall. Wu Kinkyu chuckled, watching the flood of people coming in. Yan Mo was there too. What's the point in asking? The most likely sect to drop is the Universal Righteous sect. That's what it gets for always being last. Are you so sure it's going to be last this time too? Wu Kinkyu raised an eyebrow. Yan Mo nodded without delay. Of course, it has always been like this. The number 1 spot among the superior 3 sects was always fought between us 2 sects, while the Universal Righteous sect was just the wheel. I don't mind if they were last, or even if we are last. I just hope that guy gets to fight with me already. That's all I wanted. One can never find peace unless he fights one's destined rival. Yilin was bored to death, looking for his target from the audience. Yanmo asked, hey, I feel like sparring with you. You, Yilin mocked, no point now Shu. You, Yanmo choked and Wu Kinkyu laughed. Whoosh, the judge once more made his appearance on stage, bowing before the empty air. Welcome, exalted. Welcome, exalted. The rest of the people bowed as well. Exalted double dragons appeared in their seats of honor and gestured for them to be seated. Exalted high Rans spoke, "Begin. Middle 3 sects and lower 3 sects enter the arena," the judge shouted. Sword God sect, Demon Soul sect, and Heaven Trailing sect walked into view. After them came Mystical Heaven sect and Demon Scheming sect. Seeing Zhuo Fan and his teams laid, he did not look like he would be sitting back this time. The people lit up knowing he would be fighting. Yan Mo, Wu Qinkyu, and the others were excited as well. Wu Qinkyu really wanted to know what this kid could do to earn his freaky junior brother's high evaluation. Wen Tao grinned at Zhuo Fan, filled with fighting spirit. "Zhuo Fan, your reputation precedes you. We'll finally get a glimpse at your skills. I wonder if you'll live up to your name. Fight me and you'll see." Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. Wen Tao paused, then nodded. "I'll be waiting." Han Yunfeng stared at Zhuo Fan, then finally said, "Well met, Zhuo Fan. I am Demon Soul Sect's eldest young Ma's big young Han." Zhuo Fan cut him off, earning a few snickers from Demon Scheming Sect and Demon Soul Sect. Han Yunfeng coughed and said, "I am Han Yunfeng. Because of my father's harsh teachings, he only gave us 3 brothers' names after age 5, depending on our strength. Only the strongest earned his name, while the rest didn't have one. That is why only I have one. They are the second son and third son." "Oh, your dad sure is cruel. That's a demonic sect leader for you." Zhuo Fan nodded, then a question nagged at him. "If the sect leader is cruel to such a degree, does he not feel any love for his sons?" "Ugh, the demonic path is filled with mysteries." Han Yunfeng said, "I planned to fight you in the Double Dragon Gathering, but I reconsidered. It's unwise to do something you already know you'll fail. So despite some regrets, if you want to challenge us, Demon Soul Sect will have to refuse your invitation." Zhuo Fan's brow shook, giving him another look of admiration. The kid knows when to call it quits like a true man of ambition does, and he is a sect leader's son too, quite unlike a certain someone. Zhuo Fan's eyes drifted to Ren Kong, who had a constant sneer on his face. "Fool, he has you believing a lie." "You're still falling for his bluff." Zhuo Fan shook his head, scratched his nose, and gave him a moment of silence in tribute. Exalted double dragons saw Zhuo Fan on the scene and were startled. They shared a glance and nodded. They were under the impression Zhuo Fan was too strong this early in the competition, but after watching the middle 3 sects stage, they realized the disciples this time were anything but weak. Without Zhuo Fan's help, Demon Scheming Sect would have nothing to fight with today, effectively going against their fair judging of the sect's potential. Therefore, they allowed Zhuo Fan to fight. Zhuo Fan glanced up and noticed their faint nod, knowing he was free to let loose. He was on a roll. In the lower 3 sect singles, the Mystical Heaven Sect won. In the team matches, the Demon Scheming Sect won. By the Double Dragon Gatherings rules, Mystical Heaven Sect can take the initiative to challenge another sect only in the single matches, while Demon Scheming Sect can only challenge other sects in the team battles. "Sects, who will you challenge?" The judge turned to the teams. "Elder Yun Bode, my Mystical Heaven Sect has always been under the Heaven Trailing Sect's guidance, and while we had the fortune to take first place in this time's lower 3 sects stage, we only wish to hold our position and not offend any middle 3 sect. Mystical Heaven Sect refuses to make a challenge." Bootlicker. Everyone there felt like retching at this slick old man's words. He's kissing ass at his age. Has he no shame? What Heaven Trailing Sect guiding you? "You're just its dog." The girls blushed in shame under the contempt of the crowd. They looked at Elder Yun filled with resentment. "We're still a sect, so why must we sell our dignity and become someone else's lapdog?" Only Ren Kong felt like he got even more full of himself, nodding like it was natural. Zhuo Fan found Elder Yun's action admirable. "He has no damn ounce of shame, just like me back in the day." Since he turned the loss into a win, Zhuo Fan had noticed Elder Yun's patience and scheming mind. Playing the innocent while the play was in disfavor, then striking when the moment was right. He might look like he was ingratiating and shaming himself, but he was, in fact, the Heaven Trailing Sect's most dangerous servant. When the master lost its focus on this dog, the dog would definitely go for the master's throat. That's the definition of flexible. The judge turned to Demon Scheming Sect. Zhuo Fan stepped out before Fiend Yang could speak. "Fight, of course." While the Mystical Heaven Sect could only submit, the Demon Scheming Sect had gone beyond this level, ready to kick these rampant middle sects off their throne and take the crown for ruling Tianyu's 3 guardian sects for itself. Zhuo Fan's determined voice echoed in the ears of everyone in the arena, filling them with excitement and expectations, especially the nation's representatives. The 9 sects in the Western lands had been stuck in their respective rankings for thousands of years. It all became foggy. When exactly was the last time an underdog tried punching above its status? Now they were witnessing history in the making. Everyone was thrilled and eager for a good show. The teams from every sect had known this was coming and were watching in anticipation. Only Ren Kong's face fell. glaring at Zhuo Fan like he was an abomination on this earth. A tiny demon scheming sect like you dares to challenge your superiors? Humph, you're going to pay for it, mark my words. Turning to Kong Shan and Kong Lin, Ren Kong nodded and gave them the signal. In all honesty, they were shaken by the demon scheming sect's team for a good reason. With 6 in the ethereal stage, their side only had himself and the twins. In other words, besides him in the second layer ethereal stage and the brothers in the third layer ethereal stage, the other 7 disciples in the radiant stage could hardly pose a challenge. They were the only 3 who could put up a fight and score a win. So why was it that even though Demon Soul Sect had only Han Yunfeng and the second young Master Han as their sole 2 ethereal stage experts, they were still above them in rank? It was their overall strength that made all the difference. The hope of keeping their name rested entirely on Kong Shan and Kong Lin dealing with 6 ethereal stage experts. As such, striking first and hard to cripple the enemy's morale was a tested tactic through the ages. The Kong brothers' eyes flickered coldly, fixing Zhuo Fan in their sights. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. His thoughts were mocking them. It's obvious that their target is me. He shook his head and sighed. Ignorance sure is bliss. Since the demon scheming sect has decided to challenge, please enter the Sumeru dimension. First will be lower 3 sect demon scheming sect versus middle 3 sect heaven trailing sect in a team battle, the judge shouted at the crowd. Then 2 familiar figures appeared on the stage. They were none other than the elders posing as gatekeepers of Double Dragon Manor. Their hands worked through the gestures quickly, and with a bang, they shot their hands forth. The space in front rippled like a curtain about to be lifted. As the ripples took form, the 2 elders grabbed what looked like seams and pulled with all their strength until the veins on their arms bulged outward. Creak, the space was split apart with a heavy sound to reveal a new world. The view presented a magnificent valley with a tall and imposing mountain behind it, covered in a lush and beautiful forest. This world's limits were so vast that one could not even see the edges. Such a considerable expanse could easily accommodate a battle against armies in the hundreds of thousands, not just a measly 20 people. Turning back to the audience, the judge said, "The disciples of the 2 sects are to enter. You are free to fight to your heart's content." Zhuo Fan nodded and was the first to walk forward, but someone gave a taunting snort just before he entered the barrier. "Ha ha ha, what a grand world. I bet this will be your first time seeing it since you've never had a team battle. But don't even think about hiding in this vast world. We've been here so many times, we know it better than you." Ren Kong snickered at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan mocked, "You took the words right out of my mouth. Not like if you hide, it will change anything. It will just be taking a little more time. Come to think of it, I can't remember the last time I played cat and mouse. I should relish the moment, ha ha ha. We'll see who plays with who here." Ren Kong just had to have the last word, but those who knew Zhuo Fan's real strength looked at him like he was an idiot. "I say, I don't think I've ever seen anyone so quick and excited to die. Life must be tough for him." Zhuo Fan shook his head with a mocking smile as he entered the world. His team snickered and followed right after. Ren Kong gave the Kong twins a signal and the 2 nodded. They shot into the barrier, soon followed by the rest of their team. Soon, everyone entered the fray, leaving behind a faded image from inside to let the audience know how it progressed. Wu Zhuo Fan was the first to appear in a small valley, with demon scheming sect's disciples behind him, gawking. The spiritual energy in this valley was thick, tens of times better than in Double Dragon Manor. Cultivating here was paradise. Double Dragon Manor is the strongest sect in Western lands to have such a great place. However, Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow as he looked around in curiosity. The spiritual energy is too thick. There's no way a simple spiritual gathering array can do this. It seems there are world crystals here. Maybe, Zhuo Fan's brow furrowed. In a dark corner of this world, Danking Shen's eyes stared over with a flickering gaze. Whoosh, suddenly, as the demon scheming sect team was stunned by the world around them, 2 familiar men appeared in front. They were Kong Shan and Kong Lin, but they did just keep on coming at Zhuo Fan, who just cocked an eyebrow. They did not attack, passing through him and coming before the 6 ethereal stage experts. "Mountain and forest shadow the mountain," Kong Shan growled. As he finished, his body glowed in an earthly yellow light, his strength surging so much at the same time it felt like he was pushing the heavens aside. The others squinted and cried, hurried to fight back the twin attackers in the form of a combined palm. In an instant, the 6 ethereal stage experts' powerful palm attack rolled at the twins like a huge boulder. Kong Lin's eyes flashed and he made a sign. "Mountain and forest shadow the forest." A green image formed, draping over the 2 like a curtain, starting with a green glow spreading around. Just in time to welcome the 6's attack, but instead of pushing through the green image, it only grew weaker as the curtain wiggled and swiveled, nullifying the attack's momentum. Then with a bounce, it kicked back the 6 palm strikes at the attackers. At the same time, the lofty yellow power also fused with it. In an instant, a prismatic attack of incredible power came for the 6 people. They were caught off guard by the attack and scattered around like bowling pins up to 100 meters away. Eyes squinting, the 6 could hardly believe what had happened. They were astounded how 2 ethereal stage experts could push back 6 others. While it looked like each side was taking their time and moving to strike just now, it all happened in the blink of an eye. In other words, in just one move, the 6 were defeated by 2 people with the same cultivation as 3 of theirs. Even the audience outside was shocked by this development. The combined attacks of the twins were indeed impressive. They were at an advantage against 6 enemies. Only Sword God Sect and Demon Soul Sect who fought them understood how deadly the duo was. No way your average ethereal stage expert could fight them. They could fight as many as 10 opponents. In other words, while in singles they could get 4 points at most, their full potential had no limit in a team battle. For Demon Scheming Sect to challenge Heaven Trailing Sect to a team battle was entering their domain. Mountain and Forest Shadow combines reality with illusion, switching between force and flexibility. It is as strong as a relentless assault, crushing anything in its path, and as flexible as a raging torrent blowing them away. The two make a truly rare team. Looking at the screen, Wen Tao squinted and smiled. When we fought the duo, we also seem to have taken a long time to win. Tiansheng, how long do you think it will take your old friend to beat them? Wen Tao asked Zai Tiansheng, who turned pensive for a moment before he shook his head. Zhuo Fan is a monster, exceptionally gifted and advancing at unimaginable speeds. I haven't seen him in years, so I cannot tell how strong he has become. 15 minutes at most, the voice startled Wen Tao. Looking over, he saw Demon Soul Sect's Han Yunfeng with his eyebrows raised. Wen Tao chuckled. Brother, would you be kind enough to share what you know? It's not anything of real value anyway. We have fought Zhuo Fan and the Kong twins before, and even though we lost in both cases, we knew who was the true master among them. Han Yunfeng took a deep breath. Kong Shan and Kong Lin used at least 90% of their power when they fought us, while Zhuo Fan less than a third, maybe just a fifth. Every move of his was casual yet unbelievably intricate. If we were to compare, the twins would be a lake while Zhuo Fan the sea. We cannot imagine anyone among the disciples here who can make him go all out. Oh, then I'll make sure to watch closely. If I'm not mistaken, Kong Shan and Kong Lin's attack on the 6 ethereal stage experts is a feint while their real target is him. What this brother said is true. Wen Tao's eyes shone like he knew everything. And sure enough, after the 6 were blown away, the twins turned around and went for Zhuo Fan. Oh ho, so they're after me, is it? They wanted first to take care of the pesky flies before they came for me, ha ha ha. Despite the two coming at him with murder in their eyes, Zhuo Fan replied to their savage glares with a faint smile. For the audience, it was the moment they had all been waiting for. Wen Tao and Han Yunfeng were also eager to see how Zhuo Fan would put the tough and flexible twins in their place. Whoosh darting around a few times, the two closed in on Zhuo Fan as their hands weaved gestures. Mountain and Forest Shadow, the crushing mountain, boom, with Kong Shan's shout, a yellow light shot straight for Zhuo Fan like a raging bull. Such destructive power was enough to pulverize even the body of an ethereal stage expert. Mountain and Forest Shadow, the spreading forest, hum as green light pervaded and rippled forward. Kong Lin's eyes flashed, his hands making signs as he followed his brother to strike down Zhuo Fan. Wen Tao's brow shook. The two sure are paranoid about being so cautious around Zhuo Fan. They're using a different attack than they used on the 6. When dealing with the 6 ethereal stage experts, Kong Shan used power to shake the 6's attack's momentum, while Kong Lin used time to store up the attack as we saw. So the 6 palm attacks were all guided under the green ripples, turned back at the attackers. So in truth, the 6 did not lose to the 2's power but their own. Han Yunfeng nodded, but this time they switched tactics. Kong Shan became more forceful, like an earthquake, while Kong Lin forewent deflecting attacks for dispersion. If Zhuo Fan came at them with force, his attack would be useless, being redirected away from them. This combination is truly a great blend of power and flexibility, covering attack and defense. When Tao smiled and nodded, it truly is a pesky little tactic, but do you know why they decided on using it? Fear. Since storing power has its limits, having not seen Zhuo Fan's attack, they at least heard of it. So if the power was truly that overwhelming, Kong Lin had no way to contain it, leaving them crushed. To make sure that didn't happen, he chose to deflect. Han Yunfeng analyzed. When Tao sneered and nodded, right you are. No matter how amazing their skills are, even they pale against relentless force. It depends on Zhuo Fan's punch and how strong it is. Will he withstand Kong Shan's brutal attack after Kong Lin's deflection? By the way, you've seen Zhuo Fan's punch, so what do you think of it? See for yourself. The Han brothers returned to the screen. Stingy, Wen Tao shrugged and kept watching the events unfolding. Kong Shan and Kong Lin were right in Zhuo Fan's face. The mighty yellow power was seconds away from blasting him, yet Zhuo Fan wasn't doing anything, just standing there. The audience was at the edge of their seats for what was about to happen to Zhuo Fan. Will the legend of the darkest horse in history fizzle out here and now? The Kong twins sneered. I knew it, the punk was nothing but talk all along. He's nothing, we are almost upon him, about to rob his life, yet he doesn't do anything. This proves the rumors were exaggerated. He's either scared to death or can't even react. He's no expert. What expert would just let himself be pushed in a corner anyway? While the two were giggling to themselves for having this in the bag, a soft buzzing came, and the two's scalps tingled for some odd reason. The earth started disintegrating 100 meters around Zhuo Fan from the high-frequency vibrations. Kong Shan's yellow attack was just about to strike. A pity disintegrated the next moment into nothing. At the same time, Kong Lin's green light curtain started sporting black lines, running through it like a spiderweb before it collapsed. The two's eyes shook and their hearts fell. They jumped back at once, looking at the still unmoving Zhuo Fan in shock and awe. They watched as the rest of their attacks crumbled before their eyes. Even before they got out of the 100-meter range, it had vanished. Moreover, two wails of pain pierced the skies as in that instant their attacks fell through. They were also just one moment too late to clear the area. One hand from each of them was chipped away at high speeds before they also vanished. All that was left behind was blood dripping from the stumps, a testament to the vibration's power. What the hell was that? SSS watching how everything in 100 meters of Zhuo Fan was pulverized, the audience gasped at the spectacle. When Tao and company were even bug-eyed, even exalted Double Dragon's eyes twitched in amazement. Just what is this astonishing martial art? It is beyond belief. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed with 4 golden halos and his mouth perked into a condescending smile. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, absolute domain, space crusher. The twins looked at each other and their gazes hardened. Zhuo Fan had been keeping to himself to a ridiculous degree. Who the hell is he? It's not just about strength. Just how the hell does he know such baffling skills? Glossing over their obvious shock, Zhuo Fan closed one eye and stopped the attack. His mouth traced a wide, bright smile as he jumped straight for the two. The twins thought about running away. Zhuo Fan's left hand turned into a dragon claw as it pursued Kong Lin while his right eye flashed golden twice with void annihilation, aiming for Kong Shan. Kong Lin felt a chill down his spine. He's not just what the rumors painted him, but far more terrifying. They had no chance whatsoever. Though it was a bit late for regrets, they could only choke on it since they bit more than they could chew. Helpless, Kong Lin had no other choice than to fight, shouting, "Mountain and forest shadow, the spreading forest." Another ripple traveled from Kong Lin with a green hue. Wraith Style's second move, Ghostly Dragon Claw. Zhuo Fan snickered and went straight for it with a grab. However, Ghostly Dragon Claw's power faded just as the ripple grew unstable. How amusing, Zhuo Fan smiled and let purple lightning flicker through the claw. As the purple lightning passed, the already strong claw gained an edge. Crash! With a huge bang, the green light around Kong Lin's body was decimated, along with Kong Lin's frail body. Blood splattered everywhere, gore squelching as it touched the ground. Zhuo Fan's claw had turned a human being in a shower of blood and giblets. The audience gasped and cried. Yilin's eyes squinted, piqued by the appearance of purple lightning. I was right, after all, that's... Zhuo Fan stepped again with one down and closed in on Kong Shan. Watching his brother reduced to fertilizer, Kong Shan was scared out of his mind. But even if he ran, could he escape the likes of Zhuo Fan? Seeing Zhuo Fan upon him, he could only stake it all. Mountain and forest shadow, the crushing mountain. Boom, he pushed out both his palms as he shouted. With a loud rumble, the yellow power rolled forward like a 1,000-meter-tall mountain, straight for Zhuo Fan. Such a blow would render anyone's body to a pulp. A shame he wasn't dealing with just anyone. In the face of Zhuo Fan and his soaring killing arm famed through the world for its unmatched strength, he might as well be attacking with a toothpick. Zhuo Fan's mouth split into a nasty grin. His right hand flashed as he punched. Boom! The earth-shaking sound came from Zhuo Fan's sacred arm striking the yellow power the same way towering waves fell upon a sand castle. It crushed it to harmless motes of light. What came next was a relentless gale that ripped at Kong Shan's body. His figure was gone and replaced with a red cloud, raining down thick crimson droplets into red rivulets. It was clear to all this was the miserable ending. The once excited audience gawked. With how many of them were seeing Zhuo Fan's handiwork for the first time, they were still reeling over how such a monster existed. His power was out of this world. Everyone bore testament to the twins' strength last time. They were no less than the level of the superior 3-sex disciples that proved to be a thorn in many of the middle 3-sex disciples' sides. Yet these brave and bright geniuses were squashed to nothing at Zhuo Fan's hands with the lightest of actions and in the most horrendous way possible. Zhuo Fan's display had everyone shaking in their seats. Even those that witnessed Zhuo Fan's punch were still unnerved. That strike was unintended and random, while in this fight the strikes were done with purpose and resolve. The constant show of baffling martial arts had left the people thrilled. Every time I see him, it feels like he's a new man, a new abomination. It puts all my effort into cultivation over the years to shame. Even if I were to fight him, I still can't beat him. Zai Tiansheng shook his head and sighed. Wen Tao's face twitched. Tiansheng, what the hell had your friend been eating to end up like this? He's inhuman. And you, Han Yunfeng, didn't you say he's going to take 15 minutes against the twins? He barely took a second. How should I know? Han Yunfeng rolled his eyes. I told you he's terrifying. I bet the last punch wasn't even his all. I just can't imagine where all his strength ends. How could a freak like him be allowed in the Double Dragon gathering anyway? How are we supposed to compete with that? Wen Tao eyed him and gave a firm nod of approval. Then his face fell as he spoke bitterly, for crying out loud. I had confidence that many of my plans to deal with the demon scheming sect would work, but how the hell will any of them work when they have such a freak? Humph, ignorance is bliss. That so-called confidence was nothing but blind faith, Han Yunfeng mocked. Wen Tao glared, then sighed. Others had it worse. Heaven Trailing Sect's elder thought the challenge match with demon scheming sect would still go to them. Now though, victory was the last thing on his mind. His team was going to be slaughtered. That valley was a hellscape, fraught with one certain and imminent danger that would pull everyone in, Zhuo Fan. And to make matters worse, their leader Ren Kong is completely oblivious to it, and that was the truth of it. In that world, Ren Kong had warned the twins to go for Zhuo Fan from the start rather than picking up the leftovers from demon scheming sect. However, the fight was already over. This mighty young master Ren and the other disciple had not received any message either, a testament to how brief the fight was. Elder Qi was most worried that the young master was still stubbornly holding on to his belief that the enemy was showboating. That suicide, Elder Qi felt like crying, his heart in a mess. The rumors were true, if not failing to live up to his power. The punk is a terrifying existence. Wu Qinkyu took a deep breath and sighed. His reputation precedes him. Zhuo Fan is outstanding. There might not even be many from the superior 3 sects who can take the twins on, yet this guy did it like nothing. You haven't seen anything yet. Wait till he becomes a true savage. That's when you'll see his power. Yanmo recalled his miserable experience and sighed. We didn't even get to see his soul yet. Wu Qinkyu cried, soul? He's in the radiant stage and already formed his soul. Oh please, how the hell is he supposed to fight an ethereal stage expert if he didn't have a soul formed? I figured he has some defensive soul treasure on him. That and his incredibly strong body are what helped him score wins. At least that's how it looked until now, but if he has a soul formed… Wu Qinkyu's face was heavy. Glancing over, Yanmo sighed, here's a newsflash for you. He doesn't just have a soul form, but it is also something incredible. How do you know? Did you see it? Wu Qinkyu looked at him hard. He nodded, then shook his head. What I mean is, I sort of saw it and didn't. At that time, he only half released it, yet that was enough to almost take my life. If not for the girl in his arms stopping him, I wouldn't be here talking to you. You fought him and lost? Wu Qinkyu gasped. He knew just how strong Yanmo was, while not better than him, of course, but he was a true expert in the Western lands. The best genius in Western lands could beat him, no problem, but getting him to leave his life was another matter. It was this expert that almost got culled by Zhuo Fan's power. Just what level is this guy at anyway? Wu Qinkyu turned a startled face at Yilin. Junior brother, your opponent is freakishly strong. Of course. How else is he to match me? Yilin grinned excitedly. I told you, none of you are worthy of fighting him except me, because we are destined rivals, he. Wu Qinkyu gave him a long look, then nodded. Meanwhile, Zhuo Fan finished dealing with 2 flies and started looking around with a devious smile. Zhuo Fan's eye twitched and charged forward. He clawed at some bush and grabbed a mote of green, Konglin's soul. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed golden again and the mote vanished. Then he disappeared again, appearing high on a tree's branch. He swiped his hand and caught a yellow mote this time. It was Kong Shan's soul. With one last disappearing act, Zhuo Fan was back to his original spot, but this time with an extra nasty grin on his lips as he said to the 2 motes in his hands, Go ahead, run. Did you think I didn't see you slipping away when your bodies were pulverized? And you, Kongshan, what the hell were you doing perched up there under a bird's butt? Are you trying to become a chick in your next life? Demon scheming sex disciples snickered over. The 2 souls were shaking in fear. You picked the wrong guy to mess with this time. You up and challenged Steward Zhuo and got what's coming to you. Ha ha ha. Kui Lang patted the 2 souls and mocked them. The others laughed along. The Kong twins were ashamed, crying out in anger. You destroyed our bodies, and now you dare kill us. We are from the heaven-trailing sect, the head of Tianyu's 3 guardian sects. Head my ass. When we kick you down a notch, we'll be the head, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan grabbed the two and knocked them into each other so hard they saw stars. The rest were laughing even harder now. In flashes of light, Ren Kong and his gang entered the stage. Seeing the demon-scheming sect team laughing and joking, Ren Kong looked around, puzzled. Where are Kong Shan and Kong Lin? Did they get sent to a different area? The plan was to go after Zhuo Fan to catch him off guard the minute they got here, but now there was no sight of them and the chance was lost. As for the two in question being defeated, that never crossed his mind. He wasn't one to entertain such flights of fancies. The two managed to make it hard against all other middle 3 sects, so how would they get done in a flash? But the cruel reality was he couldn't even register what was before him. He just had to mess with the wrong person. Are you thinking they should have been on me the moment they came here? Zhuo Fan mocked. Ren Kong's brow shook and he looked at Zhuo Fan incredulously. How does he know that? Zhuo Fan grinned as if he had read his mind, then shook his head as he extended his palms holding the 2 motes. Because they did it just now. A shame they lost, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan squeezed, and under Ren Kong's shocked eyes, he watched as the two cried their last and scattered into the air. From now on, the head of Tianyu's 3 guardian sects has changed. Zhuo Fan squinted. Qi Changlong and the others behind him snickered, strutting for Ren Kong's team with taunts and jeers. From now on, Tianyu's 1st guardian sect was taking a rain check. Ren Kong squinted as he jerked in fright. It blew his mind and all his understanding that Kong Shan and Kong Lin should charge one enemy only to be squeezed to nothing in the enemy's hands. Such a display left him crushed. And with his hopes gone, that left nothing but fear when he looked at Zhuo Fan. He never saw Zhuo Fan in action, but this was enough to get it through his thick skull that the rumors were true enough to get him killed. He is a monster I can't mess with. A shame he had done it already. However, he had more present and serious matters to worry about, like the ever-approaching Qi Changlong and his friends with cold smiles. Now, even without Zhuo Fan's help, the 6 ethereal stage experts against the only ethereal stage expert on his side, him, and damn radiant stage experts, the rest could do nothing to curb the fear they all felt. Ren Kong was sweating buckets, his mouth fell and he teared up. His teammates looked at their young master with pleading gazes, even as they knew their young master was in the same boat as them. Qi Changlong was coming down on them with a savage grin, snapping his finger joints as he made fists. Ren Kong kept staggering away, filled with sweat. Young Master Ren, who is the cat and who is the mouse, I wonder? Zhuo Fan snickered. Ren Kong gnashed his teeth and turned red in anger. The punk is mocking me. Zhuo Fan shook his head and smiled. That's right, I'm here to shame you, but on account of your exquisite manner yesterday, I am inclined to give you a chance. In a team battle, the rule says that the door outside will open after 6 hours, and the fight finishes regardless of the outcome. So didn't you say you're quite familiar with the area? So be a good mouse and scurry along for a hidey hole. And if we find you all in the next 6 hours, then it's only right that the cat gets to eat its prize, ha ha ha. Demon-scheming sect's disciples cracked up, filled with contempt for them. Steward Zhu wanted to toy with them to their last breath. He's the same as Yan Mo. The audience chuckled and sighed. Such is the way of demonic cultivators. All demonic cultivators are the same, I see. They just love making a show out of their savagery. Ha ha ha. Wen Tao shook his head. Han Yunfeng glanced over and said, this is called absolute power. You think you'll see something like this in an equal match? True cruelty only shows when one side has an overwhelming advantage. Maybe Zhuo Fan is telling the others through this act that they shouldn't mess with them no matter how strong they are. Wen Tao sighed. Han Yunfeng grinned. Then will you still stand in his way? Regardless of the outcome, I would be happy to know I could fight such an expert. Han Yunfeng's heart shook and fell silent. Wen Tao's words cut deep. Fighting a losing battle was unwise. From the sect's standpoint, retreat was welcomed against an impossible adversary. However, to a cultivator whose nature was to go against the natural order, they should fight regardless of adversity and brave any dangers. Having been close to the leadership of a sect, he had forgotten this simple truth, the basic nature of a cultivator. If he balked in fear against this mighty opponent, how would he progress in his cultivation? Suddenly his eyes focused and flicked in Zhuo Fan's direction. It seems I was mistaken. Wen Tao eyed him and nodded with a smile. That's how a demonic sect's young master should be. 10, 9, 8. Zhuo Fan lifted his arm and started the countdown. Kui Lang and company grinned in Ren Kong's direction, waiting for them to flee like rats. I have never been more insulted in my entire life. Yet when it came to choosing between dignity and life, Ren Kong could only think of himself as he ran like the wind under the audience's ridicule. The other disciples thought even less, going after their young master like good gophers. 3, 2, 1. Zhuo Fan's counting was slow, but it ended either way quickly. Kui Lang and the others grinned as they began the hunt. They sure loved playing around at another's expense. But just as they started, Zhuo Fan's smirk started. People, let's all relish the game. They looked at each other and nodded before vanishing. Zhuo Fan smiled and was gone as well. The little valley regained its tranquility once the game of cat and mouse began. The two gatekeepers closed their eyes, changing the screen outside the dimension by switching through the monitoring arrays already set up inside in search of any movement. It didn't take long for a heaven-trailing sect disciple to appear, frantic in his run for his life. He barely made a few steps as Lu Zai came from behind. He pointed, and green light shot his ankle. Then thick green energy spread from his heel to the rest of his body. Hi, run, kitty, run. The faster you go, the faster the poison spreads. And when it reaches your innards, you're done for, Lu Zai cackled. The guy felt his heart beating out of his chest, and he was so scared he was close to soiling himself. Lu Zai, however, was enjoying the moment of tormenting the poor devil. Noticing the green energy was almost at his thigh, he could no longer tarry. He instantly chopped his leg off and started jumping around in an attempt to flee. Lu Zai sneered and shot another green light on the other leg. He was again forced to choose between his leg and his life. The guy was horrified and crying in indignity, while Lu Zai was taking his sweet time to see what he'd decide, to relish in his sweet torment. It took only half an hour for the guy to be without arms and legs. Finally, Lu Zai cackled one last time and wiggled over. The audience sighed in sorrow. Exalted double dragons did the same, but out of boredom. Such an event was happening all over the place in that world. This was no longer a team battle, but a one-sided slaughter. Just how on earth did heaven-trailing sect defend the demon-scheming sect to incur such cruel revenge? Holding their foreheads, the two exalted no longer bothered to watch and closed their eyes. However, none noticed that no matter how the view changed, Zhuo Fan was nowhere to be seen among the tortures. He had been gone ever since the hunt began. It was as if he was no longer in there. Whoosh, deep in the forest, a figure appeared. The proud Zhuo turned around and nodded. Good, this must be the blind spot in the monitoring arrays. Then his hand held a sparkling and pure crystal, a sacred stone. The black energy curled from his hand around the sacred stone and slowly dissolved it. Zhuo Fan focused on the drifting spiritual energy, following its every shift. Then his eyes lit up in glee. Over there, he was gone once more. This time, Zhuo Fan was sidestepping the monitoring arrays while following the flow of spiritual energy from the sacred stone until he arrived before an unending mountain. The spiritual energy was so thick here it felt like the previous valley could not compare, to the point that the entire mountain range was like a bright azure dragon as it emitted spiritual energy. I knew it. This is a Western land's sacred mine. Who knew they'd sealed it up in here? Watching the distant mountain range, his heart shivered. The instant he got here, he was convinced that this place had to have a sacred mine. But since this was someone else's home, it was closely monitored. Looking for their treasury under Double Dragon Manor's nose was asking for the noose. So the ingenious Zhuo Fan used heaven-trailing sect's hunt to cover his tracks and let him inspect in peace. That was why he kept telling the disciples to take it real slow, to give him time to have his share of fun. Now that he was here, his doubts were cleared. From what Zai Yu said, the 5 lands' sacred mines could only be exploited at the edges. Most of their ores are being protected by a strong array that can only be placed by the likes of experts from the sacred domain, who then, besides him, blowing himself up and ending up in the mortal domain, would fall so low. Moreover, the path to descend from the sacred domain was closed shut. Even a saint would find it hard to breach it, to say nothing of the others. In that case, the answer couldn't be more obvious. Squinting, Zhuo Fan pondered. This must be related to the 5 sacred beasts. Kunpeng had him look for the other sacred beasts while keeping young Sanzi hostage. That has to be it. Zhuo Fan looked around the place, then his brow shook. The sacred mine is so important that there are tens of monitoring arrays just 100 meters from it, not to mention they are all discreetly set up. A shame you guys met me. When it comes to arrays, yours truly is your great-great-great ancestor, Humph. Grinning, Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed golden. Besides, you should now be drawn to watching Lu Zai and the others' actions and have no attention to spare on me, he. Whoosh, with a snicker, Zhuo Fan vanished. He kept showing up and disappearing all over the mountain range, but all were spots where the monitoring arrays could not reach. Whoosh, Zhuo Fan finally stopped before the dimly lit mouth of a cave. As he entered, he did not trigger one of the hundreds of monitoring arrays outside. He sighed in relief. Zhuo Fan looked at the cave's walls filled with sparkling crystals shining in a faint light. The sheer density of the spiritual energy was so great it gave him goosebumps. His eyes lit up at the sight. This was the entrance to the sacred mine, and these crystals were the sacred stones the vein formed. All sacred mines had to be formed on top of a world array to condense such a high concentration of sacred stones. That meant that apart from the sacred array, the sacred mine was not suitable for setting up other arrays, or it would end up disturbed by the natural power of the world. Thus, Zhuo Fan was not worried there might be any monitoring or defensive arrays here, unless, of course, they could set up sacred arrays, which was an impossibility in the mortal domain. So Zhuo Fan just waltzed in curiously. He wanted to see who this expert was and what kind of an array he set up to protect the sacred mine. He barely took a few steps and an ear-piercing ringing came. His eyes shook and Zhuo Fan stopped. What's going on? Is there someone inside? Carefully walking deeper, Zhuo Fan noticed that the ringing intensified. When he reached the end, he was stumped. A 2-meter longsword covered in a prismatic haze floated just above the cave floor. It would sometimes shake and release a mesmerizing ringing sound. The rich spiritual energy from the sacred stones converged on the longsword. Like a newborn pup growing on the sweet milk, the longsword was also sustained under the sacred stone's care. Is that a sacred weapon? Zhuo Fan squinted and cried out. By the looks of it, it's even a 6th-grade sacred weapon, the strongest of the sacred domain. Above the 12th-grade spiritual weapons were the sacred weapons. Only a person from beyond the mortal domain could unleash this weapon's true might. And since sacred stones were needed to refine them, making such beauties was an extremely complicated process. They were a rarity even in the sacred domain. At least when Zhuo Fan was the grand leader of the 8 emperors, he could only refine a 3rd-grade sacred weapon, and that was only in theory as well, having never actually done it. The materials weren't available everywhere either. Just going by the requirements of the sacred stone alone, he did not know just how many lands of the Sheng clan he had to cheat and how difficult it was to get them off his tail in the process. He never expected the tiny mortal domain to contain such a beauty, the legendary 6th-grade sacred weapon. Such a wonder made his little heart flutter. He had plenty of sacred stones on hand, but no sacred weapon. Since he stumbled onto one, was he just going to pass by? Zhuo Fan grinned and walked towards it. Ha ha ha, I know that all sacred weapons have a conscience, so you must be able to understand me. Look, this place is so damp and gloomy, with no sunlight ever getting in. Aren't you bored sitting here all day, every day? Why not join me out to play? The sword understood Zhuo Fan's intention and shook faintly before emitting a sharp light. Wait, Zhuo Fan jumped back at once and waved his hands. I mean no harm and don't intend to take you for myself. I know sacred weapons need sacred stones to shine and replenish their energy. I have plenty of them with me. If you come with me, you get to soar in the endless sky as we travel the world and have your fill of all you can eat. I'll make sure to make you content. Zhuo Fan was like an uncle swindling children. He showed such an obscene smile too. His hand flashed and took out a sacred stone. See, I'm not lying. I can replenish your energy just as well in my ring. The only difference is that you can also come out to stretch your legs. Would you like to? Check my ring for yourself. If you don't like it, you're free to come out. You're a sacred weapon and I can't lock you up. Zhuo Fan tentatively showed his thunder ring in enticement. The longsword looked hesitant. It hummed and went still. Zhuo Fan knew he almost had it and was bursting with excitement. Holy hell, I'm about to have the strongest sacred weapon. This is both of my life's dreams come true. His trip to Double Dragon Gathering had paid off hundreds of times over. Even if he weren't forced by Zai Yu's task or Kun Peng's threat, he'd have come here ages ago for this sweet trinket. Who, however, just as Zhuo Fan was about to hoodwink the sacred weapon, a blue flame flared up from his thunder ring. At the same time, Zhuo Fan's forehead sported the same azure flame, his body crackled with purple lightning and his right arm flashed crimson. What's going on? Startled, Zhuo Fan was stumped. A chilling bloodthirst swept the cave, and Zhuo Fan's heart tensed as he looked incredulously at the longsword. What just happened? We were getting to the good part, so why the sudden hostilities? He didn't have time to think as the longsword ruthlessly attacked him. Whoosh, with a cold glint killing intent, shot out of the longsword and reached Zhuo Fan in a blink. Zhuo Fan squinted and hurriedly raised his right to block it. PFF, the most astonishing thing happened. Zhuo Fan's invincible killing arm offered no resistance to the sword's attack. In a flash, gurgling blood flowed out of it, but Zhuo Fan was too stunned to realize it. How can this be? That was just sword energy, yet it pierced through a sacred beast's body. Just what on earth is a 6th-grade sacred weapon made of to be so strong? Whoosh, however, he had no time to ponder as the sword shook and rushed at Zhuo Fan, its blade shining in a dazzling light. Zhuo Fan was horrified. For the first time, Zhuo Fan was scared to death. Its sword energy was enough to pierce a sacred beast's body, so now that it came for him, how would he stop it? It was going to make mincemeat out of him. Zhuo Fan panicked, not knowing what to do. Just as the longsword reached him, he was hit by a stroke of genius. Since you can't beat them, flee. His right eye flashed golden, and Zhuo Fan had moved 100 meters away in a blink. As for the longsword, it lost its target and searched for him, unable to find him. When Zhuo Fan appeared again, the sword closed in on him in a blink. He cried out on the inside but did not dare to leave the cave, or those monitoring arrays would spot him. Zhuo Fan had no choice but to stay in this narrow cave and dodge the sword's attacks. This couldn't go on forever since his yuan qi would run out if he kept this up. At the same time, the sword would keep replenishing its stores in this sacred mine. It could go on forever. A fight for attrition was his worst gamble. For God's sake, I'll make another tunnel since there's no other path. I could use it to escape the monitoring arrays and take to the skies. With that thought in mind, Zhuo Fan dodged one more time and his right eye flashed with 2 golden halos. Divine Eye of the Void's second stage, Void Annihilation. Bam! The space shook as the attack struck the cave wall, yet it bounced back. All the attack did was give the whole mountain range a good shake. Zhuo Fan narrowed his eyes and panicked. Does that mean that since this is a sacred mine, breaking the space is still not enough to break the layers of sacred stones? But that wasn't the end of his shock. The longsword was in front of him once more. Damn! Zhuo Fan narrowed his eyes and paled as his scalp went numb. At this very moment, the longsword was already on top of him, just a hair's breadth away. With Void Annihilation fizzling out, he had no more time to employ shift. His only fate was to be skewered to death. Well, there was one option left, to use the Void Annihilation that had yet to disperse and root the longsword. Like that's ever going to happen. Regardless of Void Annihilation's strength, it couldn't compare to the killing arm. If it got pierced by this thing's sword energy alone, how could a mere Void Annihilation block the longsword's attack? Zhuo Fan was at the end of the road. However, watching the longsword just about to tear him a new one, Zhuo Fan could only grit his teeth and risk it all. It's worth a shot even if it's for nothing. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed golden again. Divine Eye of the Void's second stage, Void Annihilation. Zhuo Fan's right eye shot out a spatial ripple that collided with the longsword. Clang! It was like it hit metal. The longsword was pushed back by the blow. It flipped twice in midair before plunging into the wall filled with sacred stones. Zhuo Fan was stunned, then he looked at his right arm, still bleeding heavily. With a flick of his hand, he smashed a big hole in the wall next to him. Sure enough, the killing arm is way stronger than Void Annihilation. So why couldn't it defend against this sword while the latter could? Crack! As he was sinking into his thoughts, the cracking from the wall jerked him away. The longsword twisted around in the wall and was fricking wiggling out of the stone and charging for Zhuo Fan one more time. Zhuo Fan narrowed his eyes, his face solemn. He no longer hesitated to use Void Annihilation on the spot. Bam! The sword was spun through the air again on impact. With a deep frown, Zhuo Fan was curious why the puny Void Annihilation succeeded where his prized killing arm failed. Maybe they're naturally opposites. Zhuo Fan pondered over some more and a realization struck him. Since Void Annihilation could handle it, what about the other skills of Divine Eye of the Void? Whoosh! The longsword was back again with a ferocious and far more savage attack than before. Zhuo Fan narrowed his eyes, and this time Zhuo Fan no longer panicked. He was like an old fox biding his time for his prey to fall into his trap. Finally, the longsword was within 100 meters, and Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed golden 4 times. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, Space Crusher. The whole cave shook, and the sacred stones littering the walls fell to the ground. But that was a mere jiggle, unlike how it usually behaved outside, where it pulverized everything. It shows that a sacred mine is tough beyond reason. Zhuo Fan nodded inside, then returned his attention to the incoming longsword. It was also shaking all over as it stopped approaching. All it could do was tremble and shake in the air. It couldn't even get near Zhuo Fan to strike. Just as I thought, Divine Eye of the Void can restrain the sacred weapon. Zhuo Fan's eyes narrowed, and his right eye flashed again in 3 golden halos. Divine Eye of the Void 3rd stage, Mirage World. Suddenly, the vibrations stopped. Only the longsword was enveloped in invisible fluctuations, preventing it from stabilizing itself. It spun around in place, unable to make heads or tails of what was happening around it. Since you don't want to work with me and even tried killing me, there's no need for you to have consciousness. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He knew fully well that sacred weapons had a mind of their own, and this one was no different, housing a spirit that controlled it. Now he and the sword spirit were at odds. He would have to crush the spirit if he wanted to obtain the sword's recognition. Therefore, he was using illusions to control the sword spirit and calm it down. If a sacred weapon lost its sword spirit, its quality would fall sharply. He had to put another spirit in its place. Zhuo Fan looked around, pensive. A flash of red came out of his body and sank into the longsword. Zhuo Fan started making signs while shouting, demon transformation art, turning the sword as one's own body, sword spirit renewal. Whoosh, black tendrils of energy flashed over the longsword along with Blood Infant's creepy snicker. A cry of fear echoed out of the sword. It was the original sword spirit. However, because Zhuo Fan suppressed its divine sense with Mirage World, it had no way to fight back even if it wanted to. As Zhuo Fan used the demon transformation art along with the void annihilation, the sword spirit slowly disintegrated, becoming nourishment for the new sword spirit. Hum, with a light ripple, the hovering longsword started trembling, and its previous glossy and impeccable blade now slowly took on a black color while crimson stripes spread over its surface, making it let out a sinister aura. Stopping Mirage World, Zhuo Fan beckoned and the sword fell into his hand. Looking closely at it, Zhuo Fan smiled in satisfaction. Henceforth, the world has lost a 6th-grade sacred weapon, but it has gained a sacred demonic sword. Little guy, you shall now be the spirit of this sword and my blood infant, the strongest 6th-grade sacred demonic sword of the sacred domain. How awesome is that? How annoying I can't unleash even a fraction of what you're capable of, not as I am now at least. The sword shook, then it flew from Zhuo Fan's grip. It spiraled in the air, and Blood Infant appeared in a flash of light. Then Blood Infant shot into Zhuo Fan's body without so much as a peep. Zhuo Fan started, then he shook his head. Little guy, are you trying to say that even if I can't use the sword, you're still one with me? Blood Infant simply rested in Zhuo Fan's body, like a child having gone to sleep. No wonder you've been my blood infant for so many years. You're so much better than some sword spirit. With you controlling the sacred weapon, I can rest easy, ha ha ha. Chuckling, Zhuo Fan's hand flashed, and a dozen sacred stones appeared, bringing them to his stomach. Though this sacred weapon needs sacred stones to replenish. Eat up, little guy, eat up and grow strong. Whoosh, the sacred stones vanished, and when he looked inside, he noticed Blood Infant had taken them. Zhuo Fan chuckled, with so many sacred stones in me, I hope I won't get kidney stones, ha ha ha. Wait, with so many sacred stones around, why the hell am I forking them out of my purse? Looking at the ground, it was now littered with sacred stones from all the shaking. He sighed, I'm so stupid. No harm was done since he would just take these pickings, which would be all the same. Zhuo Fan had no shame whatsoever, but then he noticed his still bleeding right hand and frowned, returning Dragon's roar, roar. Following the roar, his hand was covered in a flash of green, filled with life, yet the killing arm was still wounded like before. Startled, Zhuo Fan frowned. Is it that the killing arm can't be healed, or maybe the wounds from a sacred weapon can't be healed? Since this was his first injury to the killing arm, Zhuo Fan was a little unsure. Never mind, I'll just let it recover with time. After so many years, I ended up bloody wounded in action. I best keep this under wraps, or my actions here will be revealed. Holding some bandage, he wrapped it tight around his arm. Then he let his sleeve hide it before he went deeper into the cave. In the end, his main objective was to investigate the array. He wouldn't be at ease going back with just a sacred weapon. This is the place where the sacred mine is sealed. The cave couldn't be dug any further since it must have hit a wall. Touching the end of the tunnel, Zhuo Fan pondered. He noticed light flowing along the wall, like some kind of barrier covered in all kinds of symbols. His eyes widened. I knew it. The one who set this array up must be a master. It's so ingenious I can't find the slightest weakness. It's as if, Zhuo Fan narrowed his eyes, it is just like Lightning Canyons who trapped Soaring Killin. It can't be the same person or expert that set it up, right? That would mean this was another remnant of an emperor. Just what on earth happened in the mortal domain in the past? Why would such an expert leave his mark here? Even with the 9 Serenities' secret records, breaking through this ingenious array was impossible as he was now. He only got to enter the Lightning Canyon because Soaring Killin used its life to make a hole. As for the other 2 forbidden zones, he wouldn't get in even if he risked his life. Their arrays were intact. Forget about even getting in touch with those sacred beasts, not when he couldn't open the door. Tracing his fingers over the wall, Zhuo Fan was mulling over something. Then he opened his eyes wide and 2 golden halos flashed in his right. Divine Eye of the Void's 2nd stage, Void Annihilation. Bam. The spatial power struck the wall loudly, then it was over. The barrier didn't even shake, though it did flash a bit after as if to mock Zhuo Fan that he was all bark and no bite. Zhuo Fan sighed. This array is ridiculously strong. Not even Void Annihilation, specialized in breaking arrays, can do a thing to it. He would never get it open as he was now, a mere ant against the world. My only choice is to wait until after I go beyond the mortal domain to try again. Zhuo Fan gave up the search and was about to return to the valley. However, he made sure to spruce this place up with how messy it was. And so, without further ado, he picked the walls clean of any and all sacred stones. By using shift now and then, Zhuo Fan popped all over the mountain as he avoided the hundreds of monitoring arrays. All he left behind was now a bare, dark cave like he was some thief who couldn't get enough. It was a good thing the exalted double dragons didn't see him, or they'd be spitting blood right about now. Those sacred stones were tens of times the reward the double dragon gathering offered the 9 sects this time. It took 1,000 years to form, and yet they were gone just like that. May you rot in hell, Zhuo Fan. How fortunate indeed, the two exalted were oblivious. Of course, Zhuo Fan could never let them know, though his wounded right arm was a giveaway. Zhuo Fan frowned and held it close. It was its first wound, and he was a little worried. In the last few fights he had, no one could even scratch it, so coming out wounded all of a sudden would definitely attract the exalted's gazes. That'll be bad for sure. Squinting, Zhuo Fan was pondering on a solution. Whoosh, an hour later Zhuo Fan reappeared in the valley. Alas, gone was the natural beauty and lush scenery, now covered in ever-flowing blood that gave it a nasty stench. One should not forget the constant symphony of wails and cackles that accompanied such a view. It brought this work of art to life. Bang, don't hit me please, I give, just let me go. Damn you, now you know when to surrender. What were you doing before then? Where'd your arrogance go? What about yesterday's cockiness? Hi, if I don't set you straighter than an arrow now, then I'm no demon scheming sex disciple. Kui Lang's laughter echoed through the valley, filled with the promise of brutality. Zhuo Fan looked around and he saw punches and kicks raining down on one helpless victim. Gui Hu, Kui Lang, and the rest were dishing out all the beatings they could, like a master lashing out at his servant. As for the one who wailed beneath their feet, that was Ren Kong. Yue and the girls stood aside with a thick, loathing gaze on their faces. When they noticed Zhuo Fan, they bowed. Steward Zhuo, welcome back. Did you get the prick? Zhuo Fan asked. The girls turned to the others and nodded. Bai Lion bowed a bit as she reported, Steward Zhuo, heaven-trailing sex disciples have all been killed except Ren Kong. Based on his status, we can't kill him. So we captured him, sealed his cultivation, and let the others thrash him until now. As you should have, Ren Kong can't be killed or it will force heaven-trailing sect to desperate action. Zhuo Fan nodded, then he showed a nasty smile, though that doesn't mean we shouldn't put him in his rightful place. Since he liked showing off yesterday, let's show him how it's truly done. By the way, how come you aren't enjoying the kicking festival along with those guys? The 3 girls blushed and fell silent. Zhuo Fan paused, but then he noticed something. Ha, I get it. A lady is to be reserved and shouldn't lower herself to such barbaric and vile actions. But as someone treading the demonic path, you should learn to let go. Come, let's kick him a couple of rounds. It'll make us feel better. Zhuo Fan waved as he strutted over, but the girls still hung their heads in the same spot. This isn't like you at all. Zhuo Fan looked back with an odd gaze, especially you, Yue Ling. When you were the boss of the labor office, you were more arrogant than ever. Why the sudden shyness over kicking someone? Steward Zhuo, it's better if you see for yourself. Yue Ling blushed harder and pointed at the crowd. Zhuo Fan was intrigued now. Going over, he looked from behind the kicking frenzy. Ahem, brothers, please make way. Allow me to join. Steward Zhuo is back. Make way. Steward Zhuo wants to let off steam. Kui Lang looked back and his eyes lit up when he saw Zhuo Fan. The others moved away with bright smiles, letting Zhuo Fan have his fun. Now the scene was revealed in all its glory to him that had him stumped. He gave an odd look to the rest, especially those shy ladies. Now he got the gist of their reluctance. Ren Kong was nothing more than a curled-up ball of bruises and wounds, twitching and even whimpering. That wasn't the least of it, though. He was stripped of clothes, and blood was also gathering underneath him. Zhuo Fan couldn't help sneering at them. You should know not to take it too far in your games. You even stripped him naked. He is, after all, the young master of the heaven-trailing sect. Doing this in front of thousands of people, he won't have the shame to get out of his room. That's just what I wanted. I bet he won't be able to get out of his home even back at his sect. Kui Lang snickered. He pointed at the blood under Ren Kong and followed the trail of blood. Look, Steward Zhuo. Zhuo Fan did look and was speechless before crying out, you sure have. Unique tastes. He gave them a funny look, then gave a loathing handshake. Next time, don't talk to me. I am not a sicko, but a perfectly normal human being. No wonder even Yue Ling, with her nasty temper, stood behind. You guys just aren't normal. The 3 girls from afar shook and covered their ears, trying anything to stop hearing his words. The curled-up Ren Kong twitched on cue, and his sobbing increased. Kui Lang's face twitched. Steward Zhuo, who do you take us for? We're not sick, at least not to that degree. Didn't we vent for you? The prick had gone overboard yesterday, so. We used a club too. Kui Lang lifted a bloody wooden stick. Zhuo Fan hurriedly held his nose and jumped back a couple of steps. He glared at them in disgust. Put that away, you filthy animals. Animals, woo, Ren Kong shook as he cried. For the first time ever, he agreed with Zhuo Fan. Giving him a long look, Zhuo Fan shook his head, sympathizing with him. Then he turned to Kui Lang and the others, barking, you're the ones who have gone overboard. Ever heard the saying, death before dishonor? The guys were stumped. They did not get Zhuo Fan. Didn't they do what he asked? Why was he angry? Ren Kong lifted his wretched and crying face and gave Zhuo Fan a strange look. Was he the rescuer among this band of scumbags? However, Zhuo Fan's next line made his mouth twitch. Couldn't you have just gotten rid of the flesh and taken a round with his soul? That kind of pain is the most exquisite. Moreover, it's far less nasty and messy. I should have known that all vile demons are the same, Ren Kong thought. With a plop, the club fell to the ground. Zhuo Fan spoke with deep loathing. The others were stumped for a moment, then cackled. That's the steward Zhuo we know. Even if left alive, it won't do without scarring him good. You're the best team leader ever. Kui Lang snickered and patted his chest. Rest assured, sir. We shall have no compassion, no shred of sympathy, and we'll be sure to make him pay. Thrashing him was going too easy on him. It's just that you said we should take our sweet time, so there's plenty of stuff we haven't yet tried, ha ha ha. I told you to take your time so you could buy me time. It wasn't so you could turn him into your punching bag. Then again, the result ain't half bad. Recalling his haul, Zhuo Fan grinned. Then he looked at the shivering mess on the ground, afraid the act was about to resume, and Zhuo Fan shook his head. This beating will leave a deep trauma in Ren Kong's psyche. He's done for. Well, not my fault he had to prance in my face. Hold on, Zhuo Fan squinted suddenly. Then he looked at his right hand. All right, brothers, get rid of his body and let's have a go with his soul. One last push and we're done for today. Gui Hu looked at everyone. He got Zhuo Fan's implied meaning and acted accordingly. With a nod, everyone returned to Ren Kong with a sinister smile. Ren Kong was so scared he was shaking like a leaf. However, with a spatial ripple as the only sign, a white pillar sprouted in front of everyone. At the same time, an aged voice echoed, "All right, kids, that's enough playing around. The 6 hours are up. The team battle between Demon Scheming Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect is over. Over." Isn't it too fast? Kui Lang looked baffled. We still haven't destroyed this prick's body. How come it's over when we're just getting started? The others' interest fell at this point since the time was up. Zhuo Fan snickered at Ren Kong's scarlet butt and added, "Good things never last long. Now that the time is up, we must abide by Double Dragon Gathering's rules and stop." When it's all said and done, Brother Ren, you are still the young master of the Heaven Trailing Sect, the head of the Tianyu's 3 guardian sects. We're rivals on the battlefield, but friends outside of it. Friendships come first and rivalry second. Do you think you can make it back, or do you need me to get someone to help you? Hypocrite. Every face in the audience twitched, scoffing at him on the inside. They bore witness to the true essence of a demonic cultivator, cruel to no end and a hypocrite to the core. And Zhuo Fan seemed to be the culmination of all evil. Ren Kong's face sank, silently taking out a shirt from his ring to put it on. Then he barely got his feet under him. He clenched his ass cheeks as he wiggled towards the saving light, soon vanishing. Looking at each other, Zhuo Fan and Kui Lang laughed at his expense. The girls only blushed harder and glared at them with a shake of their heads. Zhuo Fan's gang followed into the light right after. Their vision shifted from the mountains to the Double Dragon Manor's arena. Yet the welcoming committee was not in the least bit happy, showering them in scornful looks rather than applauses. The team battle between Demon Scheming Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect was not as intense as the crowd hoped. Instead, it was completely one-sided. And at Zhuo Fan's behest, it devolved even more into a sick chase for torture and pain. No, a sick game is more accurate, because Heaven Trailing Sect's people weren't killed but toyed with instead. If one could still call it that, this fight was nothing more than a show of Demon Scheming Sect's endless capacity for brutality and savagery. Heaven Trailing Sect's young master Ren Kong would have gone through even more cruelty if not for that title shielding him from death. Not like this outcome was any better. Shuddering, Ren Kong, with Elder Chi's support, stood opposite of Demon Scheming Sect's team. But his head was still lowered, fear having twisted his character from an overly proud man to the shell he was now. He was unable even to look his torturers in the eye. Elder Chi saw his young master's appearance and gnashed his teeth in hatred, glaring at those demons, not like Zhuo Fan and co ever cared. They still bore that twisted smile from before. Bring it if you dare. The judge's cold eyes swept both sides as he spoke. In this team battle between Demon Scheming Sect and Heaven Trailing Sect, the former had sent in 10 people and 10 returned, while the latter had sent 10 and only 1 returned, a battle won by an absolute margin. Demon Scheming Sect, do you wish to keep challenging? Your next opponent is the second place in the middle 3 sects, Demon Soul Sect. Damn right we are, Zhuo Fan blurted out without even thinking. Judged had expected this kind of answer and continued, then you are free to decide whether it will be right now or after a rest of 3 days. We didn't even break a sweat. We fight now, of course, Zhuo Fan snickered. The judge nodded and turned to Demon Soul Sect. Do you accept the challenge? If you don't, it will automatically declare Demon Scheming Sect as the winner and you the loser. Han Yunfeng squinted in thought. Zhuo Fan paused, giving him a long look. Didn't he say he'll give up earlier? Why the hesitation? We accept. However, at this moment, Demon Soul Sect suddenly decided to fight. Turning to Zhuo Fan, Han Yunfeng was filled with battle intent. The best choice is not to fight, but it will only leave us with regret. But don't think for a second you can humiliate us as you did to Heaven Trailing Sect. Demon Soul Sect is filled with battle demons. We'll rather die than be shamed. Humph, we'll just see about that. Lu Zai snorted in contempt but was stopped by Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan gave him a long look and nodded. Good, but you better come prepared. We're not ones to go easy. Humph, we don't need your pity, Han Yunfeng scoffed. Zhuo Fan's nasty grin resurfaced, turning to his team. Demon Soul Sect is unlike the Heaven Trailing Sect. They won't balk under fear. We can't mess around with them and have to take them seriously. But they only have 2 ethereal stage experts. Why so serious? Kui Lang paused and gave the opponent an odd stare. Zhuo Fan smiled. Look at their eyes and you'll see they have made peace with death. You might want to have fun, but they are serious. They won't let it go your way. That is why it's better to face them head-on and give them proper respect. They have come to the gathering fully aware that they might never return and are ready to go all out if they do. The true spirit of a cultivator. They are nothing like kicking around some wastrels. We need to act according to our opponents. Some are to be toyed with while others should be shown respect. Startled, the gang turned in Demon Soul Sect's direction. Sure enough, although they were around the level of the Heaven Trailing Sect, they were determined to see this fight through, one way or the other. Despite witnessing how they trashed Heaven Trailing Sect, they still showed no fear. They really must be taken seriously. Kui Lang took a deep breath and nodded. His face was solemn. Looking at them, they were suddenly reminded of themselves from before. If not for Zhuo Fan bumping their strength, they would probably be at the level of Demon Soul Sect and could only throw their measly lives away in this double dragon gathering. They all let out a sigh of lament. The judge turned from one team to another. Disciples, please enter the Sumeru dimension. The second challenge of the Middle 3 Sects challenge round begins. Zhuo Fan led his team towards the gateway. Han Yunfeng followed as well. Whether intentionally or not, Zhuo Fan paused for Han Yunfeng's team to catch up. Just like that, the two walked abreast, entering the valley simultaneously. The prick sure has his charm, not always an insufferable bastard. Wu Qinkyu couldn't help but smile. Yan Mo's eyes shook at the side and he had to nod. Indeed, Demon Scheming Sect is at its peak and he should be brash and wild, but when he entered the valley, he chose to wait for Han Yunfeng to catch up and go in at the same time. It is a sign of respect. That is true. Respect me and I shall do the same. Insult me and I'll make you pay 1,000 times over. It seems to me the fact that he drove Demon Scheming Sect into butchering Heaven Trailing Sect is justifiable. But all we saw in that battle was Demon Scheming Sect's cruelty and not Heaven Trailing Sect's arrogance. That is why we all labeled the Demon Scheming Sect's men as thugs. This is why demon cultivators earned their bad name, ha ha ha. What a world. Eyeing him, Yan Mo nodded. Who'd have thought a righteous disciple would know the toils of us demonic cultivators? Ha ha ha, it's because I'm a righteous cultivator that I need to have tolerance. Demonic cultivators are paranoid yet not necessarily wrong. I will not be prejudiced. Wu Qinkyu chuckled and said to Yan Mo, by the way, I don't find this Zhuo Fan that unreasonable. Just that he acts differently depending on the people and situations, while also a bit heavy-handed. You said he almost got you killed. How did you manage to piss him off? Well. It's none of your business. Yan Mo turned red and shifted his head away. Wu Qinkyu snickered at his reaction. Demonic cultivators love to make a scene, are narrow-minded, and must have what they want. Therefore, when the two of them meet, sparks fly. Sigh, while righteous cultivators love to don the mask of hypocrisy. That should level things out, right? Wu Qinkyu shook his head at this thought. Demons are frank and irritable, while the just are fake and calm. Though who can tell who is the demon and who is just? Meanwhile, when the two teams entered the valley, they stood across from each other. Zhuo Fan jumped and landed behind his team. Han Yunfeng and the others frowned. Zhuo Fan, however, smiled. I'll say it again, who can get on my level? Pass all 9 of them. Then you can face me. Han Yunfeng's eyelid twitched and he stared at Zhuo Fan furiously. That's odd, how come the prick is up to his old tricks and won't fight this time either? Wu Qinkyu's side was puzzled as they watched Zhuo Fan. Hadn't he always treated Demon Soul Sect with respect? Why the acting? Why the antagonistic display? By not fighting in a team battle, he clearly looked down on them, holding them in contempt. His action was a hard and cold slap to Han Yunfeng's team's face. Leaving the slapping aside, why lift their hopes just now only to knock them down again? Just what is that prick thinking? They would never have guessed that it wasn't that Zhuo Fan did not want to fight. It was because he couldn't. His right hand got hurt from the brief encounter with the sacred sword. If misfortune had it that he exposed it, the exalted double dragons would see it, and he'd be finished. As for his left, it was nowhere near that strong. Favoring his weak left instead of that strong right would incur the same suspicion. So the best way to avoid it all was to show off and stay out of it. If Demon Soul Sect had just forfeited and let me fight Sword God Sects when Tao straight out, then with his strength similar to a superior 3-sex disciple, it would fit my plan perfectly. Then I wouldn't have to hide from anyone and not be so passive. But just what the hell got into Demon Soul Sect all of a sudden? While I do admire their guts, they're just too weak. I can't fake it with these weaklings. It'll only get seen through. The only choice is staying still. Scratched his nose, Zhuo Fan sighed inwardly. Han Yunfeng witnessed his action and was fuming mad, gnashing his teeth in hatred. What the hell's the meaning of this? I get you look down on us, but did you have to do it in front of everyone? Won't you even give us a few moves? Since you're so stuck up, what's with the show of respect from before and walking side by side? Are you toying with us? Han Yunfeng glared and said, Zhuo Fan, I will make you fight. Humph, to fight our steward Zhuo, you'll have to go through me first. Qi Changlong stood in Han Yunfeng's way. This is a team battle, but we won't take advantage of your weakness and we'll go one-on-one. If you have what it takes to beat our 6 ethereal stage experts, then there will be no one to stop you from fighting Steward Zhuo. What, a round robin of 1 against 6? Third young master Han cursed, you have no shame at all. My brother is in the 2nd layer of the ethereal stage, while just 3 of you are in the 3rd layer. Why not ask him to stand still so you can beat him? Quiet, brother. Han Yunfeng cut off the 3rd young master Han's rant. If it's a team battle with only 2 ethereal stage experts, they could have 2 of theirs hold us back while the rest would kill our teammates. Then it will turn into 6 versus 2. How long do you think we will hold on then? 3rd young master Han paused, then let out a long sigh. Han Yunfeng's eyelid twitched and said, that's why this round robin looks like 1 against 6. The fights will never be one-on-one. This is in our favor, I accept. Great, then let's go. Qi Changlong walked forward, giving Zhuo Fan a look from beyond the others. Han Yunfeng's eyes narrowed. His body shook, and with a reverberating roar, a blue hundreds of meters tall winged lion appeared in a flash of light. With its appearance, the temperature dropped sharply, and a biting wind formed that chilled one to the bone. The crowd cried out, that's Han Yunfeng's soul. At once, the audience was boiling. Everyone knew the soul was an ethereal stage expert's strongest weapon, but also its weakness. So unless they had no choice, the fight was to the death, or they did not fear a heavy injury, the average man would not take it out. Since if the soul was finished, so were you. So even in the middle 3-sex round, the audience had not once seen ethereal stage experts taking out their souls. Even when Ren Kong was being pummeled from all around, he would rather have his cultivation sealed than show his soul in fear of having it crushed. No one imagined that in the 2nd stage of the middle 3-sex challenge round, Han Yunfeng would actually lay his soul bare at the very start. He was ready to go all out. Elder brother, his younger brothers cried in panic. Han Yunfeng waved them not to worry, his face hard. They are all tough opponents. I have to go all out from the start, or if the time drags out, it will work against me. Ha ha ha, what a brave man you are, eldest young master of Demon Soul Sect. Then allow me to accompany you with my own soul. Qi Changlong laughed and felt as if he had met a kindred spirit. His body shook and yellow light spilled from him. In a blink, a huge seal of 60 meters appeared overhead, giving an oppressive feeling. Wu Qingqiu's brow shook and he cried, it's actually a rarely seen tool soul, the seal of upheaval. Correct. Souls are commonly divided into beast souls, elemental souls, and domain souls. As for this tool soul, despite being rare, it is on the same level as a beast soul, and Han Yunfeng's soul is that of ascending howling lion. Of bitter cold and extreme yin, the opposite of the seal's extreme yang. This makes it that the match will be decided on the strength of their souls. Yan Mo nodded as he analyzed. Yilin looked from the side, bored. It's Han Yunfeng's win. Why? Startled, the two turned to him. Reason dictated it should be Qi Changlong who won since he had the higher cultivation. Yilin huffed because he stakes his life. Bam, the loud sound came just as Yilin finished. Ascending howling lion and the seal of upheaval clashed in a terrifying rumble. However, in that short exchange, the seal of upheaval had 5 claw marks with ice spreading around them. PFF. Qi Changlong shook all over and spat blood. At the same time, he took back his soul. He cupped his hands in admiration. Respect, you're too kind. Han Yunfeng returned his gesture even as his brow was soaked. Should this be his victory? He was, in fact, the more injured party of the two. Zhuo Fan's brow shook and he admired Han Yunfeng. The kid is a damn feisty guy. He's unlike those fake young masters from sects and even staked his life on the first attack. His upbringing must have had a heavy role to play in it. Demon Soul Sect is remarkable. Wu Qingqiu's brow shook as well. How can there be a fight like this in this day and age? As the forefathers say, pride comes before the fall. Even in a life and death struggle, one holds back some energy just in case, to change the tides and win or escape. But this guy had put up all he had and more, cutting off all his paths. If he couldn't have shaken off his opponent in the first strike, he would have been dead by now. The guy is ruthless. He is staking his life just for the chance to fight him. How can you guys even understand him? Yilin mocked. He has to fight 6 people, even in rounds. Even if he comes out victorious, he will be exhausted to death. The only way to save energy is to go out in full force. While he gives his life in every exchange, his opponent doesn't have the nerve to meet him. This leaves him with a margin to win and conserve his strength. But even so, one cannot say just how much energy he'd have left in the end. By the way, Yan Mo, you said you wanted to spar with senior brother, but do you have the courage and thirst as he does? Yilin asked Yan Mo. Yan Mo's brow shook as he watched the next fight. This time Bai Lion went forth only to be defeated in one strike, but even though he saw Han Yunfeng panting, Yan Mo shook his head with no admiration for the man. This guy is consumed with cultivation. Doesn't the demonic path contain obsession as well? This is the road he is walking. Huffed despite having only struck twice in the valley, Han Yunfeng was breathing heavily, his head soaked in sweat. His brothers rushed over to help him. Brother, are you all right? Let's just forget it. They're making it hard for you and toy with you. With the way you are now, what's the point of defeating the 6 of them when you won't be able to even stand? This is pointless. With a slight twitch of his eyebrows, Han Yunfeng slowly looked at Zhuo Fan, only to see his solemn face and bland look. As if he looked down on him. Taking risks despite knowing it would fail was useless. But when Wen Tao's words came to him, that cultivation meant going against the natural order. If he lost this chance to fight the strongest, he would feel regret for the rest of his days. Han Yunfeng once again straightened his back and took a deep breath as he stared at Zhuo Fan. Even if you do not put me in your eyes, mine will always be on you. My cultivation will never stop. Yes, that's the way, demonic young master. Wen Tao spoke as he witnessed the fights. This fight isn't to defeat him, but to prove you fear no challenge. This is the only way you can go further. Zai Tiansheng next to him looked at Han Yunfeng and then at Zhuo Fan. He nodded. Just like when he set Zhuo Fan as his rival, it wasn't to surpass him per se, but for himself to never stop pushing forward. Young Master Han, your next opponent shall be me. I won't be like the 2 you faced and won't hold back at all. Please be ready. Lu Zai walked before Han Yunfeng with a leisurely gait, bearing a twisted smile. Glaring at him lightly, Han Yunfeng said, I know, these days have shown me that you are the foulest person of all demon-scheming sect, ha ha ha. You're asking for it. Lu Zai's face fell, a bone-chilling bloodthirst flashing in his eyes. Then his body shook and a huge green spider appeared in front. The green gas it released spread along the ground like a poisonous net. Han Yunfeng's brow shook and turned serious. He'd seen Lu Zai use this move before, with Mystical Heaven Sect, to cut the enemy off from all directions. In other words, Lu Zai planned on surrounding him instead of attacking him head-on, to finish in one move. In this way, he became passive, making his plan to save energy fail here. He was sure this would become a stalling battle to wear him out instead. If it were just a single fight, this wouldn't matter. But in a round robin, he could not let this happen. Qi Chenglong couldn't help but sigh. Why is Lu Zai doing this? For young Master Han to fight all 6 of us is incredibly brave. Even if we are not exactly honorable, there's no reason to take it so far. You know as well his character. It's obvious one strike can win this. It's easy to win or give him a pass, but he would rather toy with him. Bai Lion scoffed. He plans on dragging this on, something Han Yunfeng could never accept. Qi Chenglong sighed and shook his head. Meanwhile, Han Yunfeng looked around the spreading poison, and with a roar, the ascending howling lion flapped its wings. The fierce gale slammed into the ground, turning the area around him into sparkling blue ice crystals. It was then that the spreading poison stopped. The moment the green gas touched the crystals, it would stop in its tracks. Han Yunfeng shouted, and ascending howling lion shot for the green spider, going all out once more. Humph, useless. I'm not going to take you head on. Lu Zai snickered and made a sign. The green spider scattered like before into thick mist. The thousands upon thousands of tiny spiders raced for Han Yunfeng under the cover of the mist. Whoosh ascending howling lion's strike hit nothing, but it turned back and went straight for Lu Zai. Ignoring the incoming flood of spiders, he actually opted to go down with his enemy. Han Yunfeng is truly ruthless. Meeting someone like Lu Zai who wants to exhaust him, he instead stakes his life, going all out. Wu Qinkyu sighed. Yan Mo nodded. The kid's obsessed, and I like it. I hope to see him in the double dragon manner. For a person from middle 3 sects and just a second layer of ethereal stage as well, it will be hard to enter double dragon manner. It's all up to the exalted. Yan Mo and Wu Qinkyu turned to the highest seats in the audience where the exalted sat. Lu Zai looked at the lion with a smug grin. Ha ha ha, the more anxious you are to end this, the more you'll tire. Lu Zai made another sign, and lines of green flashed all over the lion. Just like a net, those lines connected and trapped it. At the same time, the green pattern on the ground released green smoke connecting to the net. Roar. With a mighty roar, the lion found it could not advance at all, stuck in place. Grinning, Lu Zai gave Han Yunfeng a cocky look. Young Master Han, it's your bad luck to have met me. Do you know how a spider feeds? It traps its prey in a web, letting it struggle and beg for death, then slowly eats it alive. This is quite a lengthy process too. You were rash for a quick battle, but then you got me hi. Humph, that remains to be seen if your net is that tough. Han Yunfeng made a sign as his brow sweated harder. The lion roared as it struggled and it trembled. Uncaring about the lion's actions, Lu Zai grinned, poison explosion. Boom, the lion's body kept popping with great bangs sounding through the air. Han Yunfeng shook with every blow and even coughed up crimson blood. Brother, third young Master Han and second young Master Han cried out in panic. The flying lion was Han Yunfeng's soul. Its wounds met Han Yunfeng's soul wounds. It was such a heavy and sharp pain few could endure. The two gnashed their teeth and looked at Lu Zai in hatred. But Lu Zai only laughed. Young Master Han, your demon's soul, Sek's eldest young master, so I can't take your life, but you should know when to give. It's time for you to admit your defeat to me. This is as far as you go. Han Yunfeng was Demon Soul Sek's young sect leader, and defeating him would give him great merit back at the sect. Lu Zai was blinded by greed, so he did not follow in Qi Changlong and Bai Lion's footsteps in fighting head-on. Victory and merit were worth more than anything. He would be willing to do anything as long as it would help his ascent. Han Yunfeng's face twitched in pain, but he actually mocked Lu Zai. Kid, you're not worthy. We'll just see about that. Lu Zai's face fell and his sign changed. The thousands of tiny spiders charged for Han Yunfeng, but they froze in place when they touched the blue curtain of light. Just then, Lu Zai shouted, and the tiny spiders exploded, breaking through the blue curtain and allowing the spiders behind them to advance. Han Yunfeng was now at his most dangerous. With a string of constant explosions, the barrier of light shrank more and more until it was gone. Lu Zai trapped his flying lion, and explosions also assaulted it. He was stuck, unable to neither attack nor defend. Han Yunfeng's face was heavy, feeling the sharp pain stinging his soul. He paled, and Lu Zai grinned as he changed his signs. The spiders drew nearer with every step, every second, and with them, Lu Zai's web closed around him. Everyone, including the audience, was at the edge of their seats for Han Yunfeng's fate. Third young Master Han shouted, "Brother, just give up. You defeated two experts and are weary. It's no loss even if you concede. This isn't about reputation, but whether I can walk further on the path of cultivation." Han Yunfeng's eyelids shook, looking in Zhuo Fan's direction. His eyes flashed and roared as his aura exploded once more. "Brother," his brothers cried out in worry. "What's he up to?" Wu Qinkyu was startled, having a bad feeling. Soul burst, Han Yunfeng made a sign. The trapped flying lion wailed in pain and then exploded. Streams of blue light shot in all directions like a tidal wave. Everywhere and everything froze under a layer of blue crystals. Those spiders were about to explode again, but they froze immediately before shattering to dust. PFF, Lu Zai spat blood, looking at the light show slowly diminishing. Followed by a roar, a lion without wings burst out and came for him. The sudden impact caught Lu Zai off guard, knocking him flying, trailing blood behind him. This was not as light as before, with just his soul a little bit shaken up. This time, his entire innards were crushed, and there was a high chance his body was ruined. However, the people did not care about him, not even demon scheming sex members. In their eyes, there was a lion that had lost its wings, and despite its thin state, it held its pride as it lay on the ground. "Young Master Han, why did you do that?" Watching the weak and frail lion lying on the ground since it struck Lu Zai, Wen Tao shook his head. "If I had known you were so obstinate, I wouldn't have said what I had. Seeing you fall in such a plight feels like I harmed you myself." Zai Tiancheng's eyes shook as he stared at the scene for a long time before sighing. "I had spent my life only on martial arts, yet not even that can compare to Han Yunfeng's accomplishment. Soul burst, a desperate and last move to injure your opponent by exploding your soul. Unless it is the last resort, no one would ever use it, not when the recovery is painstakingly difficult." Even though Han Yunfeng had blown up his soul's wings, the damage to his soul is heavy and has also crippled his future. Putting the cart before the horse, Yanmo watched from above with a sullen look. He was angry, but not at the result and more about his inability to fight. Didn't he challenge Zhuo Fan so he could go further down the path of cultivation? Now that his soul is crippled, what was the point? Wu Qinkyu nodded, lamenting at the pity. Only Yilin disdained, looking at the lion in admiration. "What do you, ignorant youngsters, know? The soul is important, but the damage isn't permanent, just somewhat annoying. If my guess is right, Double Dragon Manor, Zhuo Fan, and even me can all heal him. But the step he had taken today shall carry him for miles. The road of cultivation is fraught with obstacles. If one knows every effort was useless and stopped, that is as far as he went. But he has achieved his goal just because he chose to stake his life in this matter despite the obvious outcome. Even if he didn't get to fight with Zhuo Fan, his heart has grown to new bounds. The two squinted, watching Yi Lin in shock, our soul wounds that meager anyone can heal. Double Dragon Manor, I get it, since they're the top in Western lands, but even you and Zhuo Fan are such miracle workers. Yi Lin noticed their gazes but said nothing. Tap as the dust cleared, Han Yunfeng dragged his even more weary body, looking with a pale face at the bloody Lu Zai on the ground. I won. This is the third match. Lu Zai gnashed his teeth and found he could not get up. All that was left was the regret in his eyes. He would never have imagined Han Yunfeng would go to such extremes. I just said I didn't want your life, so why did you have to go as far as wound your soul to win? Lunatic, you're a true madman. At Lu Zai's unreconciled face, Han Yunfeng grinned, then he turned to Demon Scheming Sect, the next challenger. Brother. His two younger brothers shook, wanting to dissuade him. But seeing his determined look, they gave up. They knew that once their big brother was serious about something, there was no changing his mind. Demon Scheming Sect's team's hearts shook and looked from the frail lion to the weary Han Yunfeng. They held him in much more respect than before. Han Yunfeng would never achieve his goal, yet he fought regardless of the futility of his efforts. It was this determination that won them over. It wasn't just them. The entire audience was filled with respect. Guihu walked forward. It's my turn. Please instruct me. Good, begin. Han Yunfeng strained to keep his body upright as he shouted. His lion also struggled to stand, roaring toward Guihu. Despite how exhausted he was, his battle spirit never waned. Guihu said nothing as he walked to Han Yunfeng. Second young Master Han was tense, worried about his big brother's fate. Han Yunfeng fixed him in his eyes. He knew well that there was no way he could fight an ethereal stage expert in the state he was in. But what amazed him was that Guihu had no killing intent, as if he was only walking over. Han Yunfeng frowned and snapped, "What's the meaning of this? Are you saying you can take me with just a finger?" Guihu did not reply. As he reached him under the watch of thousands of pairs of eyes, Guihu took Han Yunfeng's fist, struck his own chest with it 3 times, and then walked away. Startled, Han Yunfeng was stumped. The audience was baffled. At this time, Qi Lang laughed as he came over, copying Guihu by hitting his chest with Han Yunfeng's fist for 3 punches. My turn, hee. Qi Lang swaggered off. Hey, what's the meaning of this? Han Yunfeng asked. Yue Ling smirked and came over. What's so hard to understand? You just beat them, so the next one took their place. Aren't you challenging 6 ethereal stage experts? I'm the last one. Wait, you're... Han Yunfeng had a weird taste in his mouth. Stop whining, it's just your fist, Yue Ling got before him and was about to do the same, but then she realized something. She looked at her perky chest and blushed, then waved. Never mind, I'm the weakest of the 6. Since you beat the rest, I'll just admit defeat. Yue Ling left with a wave as she gracefully walked away. Han Yunfeng was left stumped, his heart filled with complex emotions. Guihu, what the hell are you guys playing at? Zhuo Fan chuckled. Guihu shrugged. Steward Zhuo, you saw it yourself. I took 3 fists of his and lost. Yep, me too. Qi Lang bobbed his head. Zhuo Fan shook his head, 3 fists to the chest. Are you guys swearing an oath of brotherhood here? Since you all admit defeat, it seems I'll have to step in. Zhuo Fan stepped lightly, coming before Han Yunfeng. His eyes lit up with battle intent. I've waited so long for this. Ha, I always keep my word. Since you reached me, you have the right to hang out. Go ahead, Zhuo Fan smiled. Han Yunfeng cupped his hands in glee and began weaving signs. Seeing their big brother shine again, the 2 younger brothers were filled with pride. They also sent grateful looks to Guihu and the others. Thank you, brothers, just showing our respect is all. Since your brother wants to fight Steward Zhuo with such passion, the least we can do is help out a little. Guihu's gang hit their chest in reply. However, just then there was a light hum and a flash of light. The judge's aged voice came from outside. The 6 hours are up. Both sides cease fighting and come out. If you fight again, I'll consider it a grudge fight. What? Han Yunfeng shook and was unwilling. How can it be so fast? Then his eyes went dark and collapsed. Zhuo Fan's right sprung into action. But then he moved it back and used the left one instead to hold him steady. Brother Han, we'll fight next time. Han Yunfeng shuddered and turned his white face to Zhuo Fan. You'll still fight me. Of course, this is my promise. Since this time we can't, there's always next time. Zhuo Fan spoke with determination. Han Yunfeng's perked into a smile and his eyes closed. He was out cold. His soul, the lion, also vanished back into his body. Holding Han Yunfeng's body, Zhuo Fan was the first to go through the light. The 2 sex teams exchanged glances and followed after. Only Lu Zai, in his heavily wounded state, had to be carried out by Qi Changlong. Whoosh, the teams were back in the arena and were welcomed by a resounding round of applauses. Unlike the first challenge against Heaven Trailing Sect, the Demon Scheming Sect still held their absolute advantage, but they had a complete attitude change. Instead of abusing their opponent, they showed respect, bar a particular someone, of course. This led to everyone having a whole new respect for Demon Scheming Sect. After looking at both sects, the judge coughed for silence and was about to announce the results when Zhuo Fan stepped forward. Elder, 10 people went into Sumeru Dimension, and 10 have returned. Both sides have one seriously injured member. It should be a draw. Well, the judge was taken aback and nodded. Since you are willing to step back, I will help you. This challenge is a draw. This statement left the crowd in shock, all looking at Zhuo Fan. Reason dictated that Demon Scheming Sect held the ultimate advantage and was the real winner. But Zhuo Fan was willing to give up victory and give his opponent the greatest respect. In an instant, the people were in awe of Zhuo Fan's style, and the Han brothers appreciated him too. Exalted Hai Ran up above nodded. The brat is walking the path, a true rarity. Few demonic cultivators have ever risen above their demonic nature. True, however, it's not just him. Ha 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 has also grown, ha ha ha. Exalted by Mei chuckled and added another name to the list in 3 strong characters. With dusk approaching, the judge declared today's fight over. The middle 3 sects challenge round had been going on for a long time, with each stage taking 6 hours each. The next challenge stage shall be held tomorrow. The judge ended with a bitter look in Zhuo Fan's direction, as if to say, it's all your fault, you punk, for wasting our time. A whole day was wasted with just 6 single matches and 1 team battle in this yet unfinished middle 3 sects challenge round. Now you need 2 days for just 3 rounds. Why do you take your sweet time with it every time you're involved? First was the lower 3 sects round, now the middle 3 sects challenge round. Do you enjoy playing that much? Can't you go on a bit faster so I can lay to rest these weary bones a bit earlier? Zhuo Fan chuckled as if he knew what he was thinking. But then he turned his head away and rolled his eyes like it was not his problem. The judge sighed and shook his head. Just how on earth did such an obnoxious freak come from the tiny Demon Scheming Sect, a lower 3 sect? After everyone dispersed, Zhuo Fan handed Han Yunfeng over to Demon Soul Sect with the promise that he would also heal his injuries before leaving. The Demon Soul Sect still doubted that such a heavy injury could even be healed. The guy isn't trying to dupe us, is he? Then again, tricking them wouldn't earn him anything. Their elder brother's wound was self-inflicted as he insisted on going on with the challenge. The Double Dragon Gathering used to be a cruel and bloody event. The fact they didn't wipe us out is already fortunate. What more could we ask? Therefore, Demon Soul Sect's team looked at the frail Han Yunfeng, thinking of his future bumpy path ahead of him, and sighed. The best talent in our sect ruined just like that. Middle 3 sects, middle 3 sects. Meanwhile, Fiend Yang took his team back, shouting all the time, filled with joy and bliss from the achievement. Fiend Yang then felt like crying, curses, it was freaking hard too. Thinking back on our team in the last Double Dragon Gathering, of the 10 of us, only 4 returned home. I never thought this time our disciples would come back in one piece and even earn us a middle 3 sect position. It feels like I'm still dreaming. I'm so damn happy. Humph, how can it ever compare to now? Fiendian sneered. Double Dragon Gathering requires a team of 10 to participate. Back then, most of those candidates were just replacements for the elders, and venerables stuck their candidates in to earn them some merits. They weren't worth a damn on the stage. Unlike this time where we only had 10, each is an elite by himself. Especially Zhuo Fan, who is worth 100. Thinking of the team battle, he alone could finish them all off, ha ha ha. Slapping Zhuo Fan's shoulder hard, Fiendian laughed, but Zhuo Fan kept frowning and cursing on the inside. Hey, watch the hand, my right's still healing. Though he didn't say it, putting on a twitching smile and nodding. Fiend Gui praised as well. Here, on this Double Dragon Gathering, Zhuo Fan had earned the biggest credit. Without him, the disciples wouldn't have the strength to even fight. They wouldn't have what it takes to raise our sect's name. We even have the middle 3 sects and superior 3 sects coming to watch us. So when we return, the first thing we do is to reward Zhuo Fan. He is the future pillar of our Demon Scheming Sect, ha ha ha. You're talking nonsense. Isn't it obvious by now? Fiend Yang sneered. Our position in the middle 3 sects is secured, and we even challenged 2 middle 3 sects. Even if it's just team battles, it will certainly not drag us back when it comes to the final score. Speaking of drag, I'm still annoyed that damn Mystical Heaven sect played us. All right, it's all in the past now. Our objective is how to keep challenging. Fiend Yin interrupted him. Fiend Yang gave a heavy nod, turning serious. The previous challenges were nothing to speak of, just small fries, while the next 4 sects are the real deal. Especially the top of middle 3 sects, the Sword God sect. Their strength is very close to a superior 3 sects. We must tread carefully. Venerable sirs, sorry to interrupt. However, just as they were getting to the crux of it, a faint voice broke their focus. Before we discuss the fighting tomorrow, could you perhaps heal me first? I feel my body is failing me. Whoosh. Startled, the fiends turned around and saw Lu Zai's weary look, lying on the ground with a miserable face like he was on his deathbed. Fiend Yang's face twitched as he cursed. You have the cheek to ask for help. What kind of brain do you have crammed in there to do what you did? You went as far as pushing the hard-headed Han Yunfeng to risk his life. Just look at Kui Lang and the others. They know a hero when they see one. Their actions have spurred the public's respect for us and given Demon's scheming sect a new look. While all you managed to do is get both of you on the deathbed, no one spares a look to you. You were seriously asking for it. Let me tell you, even if you did manage to beat him, it wouldn't have been of any worth. You'd only be reviled. Thanks to Zhuo Fan's final intervention, he patched up your mess. By the way, why would you even go so hard in blocking him anyway? Did you think he could have beaten Zhuo Fan? It's fine, he just couldn't help it and got his punishment. Fiend Yang still wanted to go on, but Zhuo Fan stopped him with a smile. Kui Lang and the other are the same as Han Yunfeng. They have potential, which resonated with him, unlike the petty Lu Zai, who squabbles over petty affairs and can never understand such bravery. Just leave him be. At the end of it all, he's one of ours and shouldn't bother him. Fiend Yang huffed and shook his head. Zhuo Fan, I'm not talking about his character, but his brains. Originally, the demonic path wasn't popular, but now that we're a middle three sect, we may even get an entire empire for ourselves. The Double Dragon Gathering is the best chance to show off our mettle. But with his behavior, won't he scare off our potential funders? We may be a demonic sect, but we still have principles, unlike those rogue demonic cultivators. Hear, hear. We collect protection fees while those rogues only know to rob homes, ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan chuckled. Lu Zai didn't like what he heard, then back with Heaven Trailing Sect, Steward Zhu asking us to toy with them isn't just as vile. For God's sake, here I am taking your side and you just had to make me look bad. He emphasized it with 2 kicks and grumbling. I did it on purpose. Everything was for power and grace. Since we wanted people to see us have virtues, we had to also show them we're no pushovers. This will help future deals go much easier in our favor. It's called preemptive strike, got it? Hear that? Steward Zhu is a brilliant man, not something a pig-headed guy like you could ever measure up to. You'll only make a fool of yourself. Fiend Yang cursed at the side, then turned to Zhuo Fan. Sigh, we better teach this kid well, or who knows what trouble he might stir. No worries, I'll first heal him, then teach him, hee. Zhuo Fan snickered as he dragged Lu Zai into his room. The rest looked on and chuckled. Bam! In the room, Zhuo Fan threw Lu Zai on the bed, closed the door shut, then his face fell. Lu Zai, what was that just now? Were you about to spill the beans about Han Yunfeng as well? Steward Zhu, I just don't understand why you suddenly sent me a message to stall Han Yunfeng as much as I could. Why then do you now? Lu Zai spoke fearfully. Zhuo Fan squinted and held his right hand. You did well when you stalled him, but if you dare say any word of this, I'd never, Lu Zai waved frantically. You'd better. Now stop asking questions. Zhuo Fan huffed and presented a vial in a flash of light. He threw it over. Take this. Don't come out in 3 days. You'll be back in shape. You don't have to join tomorrow's challenge. Just heal up. Zhuo Fan then walked out and slammed the door closed behind him. Lu Zai bobbed his head, but when Zhuo Fan was gone, he gnashed his teeth. He stared at the door with bitter resentment. Damn you, Zhuo Fan. You're the one working from the shadows, and while I take the fall, you take the glory. You get the merit and I get the can. Just you wait. This is far from over. Lu Zai turned to the vial Zhuo Fan threw and opened it after a moment of thought. This is just the interest of what you owe me. Zhuo Fan just left Lu Zai's room and then looked around. He returned to his room and took off his shirt. Looking at his right hand, still bleeding, he gritted his teeth and frowned. Damn that fiend Yin, he's like a bull. But what's with this healing rate? Just a little touch and it's already opened up again. It's all thanks to Lu Zai's stalling, or my wound would have been exposed the minute I fought. Squinting, Zhuo Fan snickered to himself like a little weasel after his plan worked perfectly. Ha ha ha, I see. I was wondering why you were so odd before. When you switched to using your left instead of your right, it turned out it was wounded. A sudden old chuckle pierced Zhuo Fan's ears, making him shiver. He swished a shocked face around, but only found an old drunkard. It looked as if he had been in Zhuo Fan's room from the start, taking his sweet time gulping down wine and looking at him with a penetrative sneer. His brow shook and Zhuo Fan cried, Senior, how did you get in? What, ain't I welcome? Danking Shen's face looked a little savage as he said, I've told you already, there's nowhere on these lands I cannot go. No one can stop me. Zhuo Fan's face stiffened and he let out a strained laugh. Ha ha ha, yeah, you do me a great honor seeing me, Senior. You light my home with your presence. How could little old me ever refuse you? It's just that Senior's sudden appearance caught me by surprise. Quite slick, I see. Who'll ever believe your smooth talk? Danking Shen sneered, then his cruel eyes snapped on the bleeding right hand. You must be most annoyed this old man found out your secret. Speechless for a moment, Zhuo Fan's eyes spun all over the place, but then he chuckled as he strained to deny it. Senior, how can you say that? How could a little old and average radiant stage disciple ever hide something from so many experts? Senior must be joking, ha ha ha. Even with the forced laughter, Zhuo Fan made sure to hide his wounded right back in his clothes. Spare me your lies. Danking Shen's face went cold, his piercing eyes staring right at him as he questioned. Boy, tell the truth. Who gave you that wound? Flicking his eyes around, Zhuo Fan waved him off. Isn't it obvious? Having fought so many times, injuries are common. Sir also knows I am a tough man, not going to let a flesh wound bother me, so I endured it. Since Sir has found me out, then I am most grateful for your concern. Cut the crap. Don't you play dumb with me, I'm not buying it. Danking Shen's face twitched and snorted. I've seen your recent fights, and you think I don't know who you've been fighting? They couldn't even scratch you, let alone hurt you. Moreover, that wound is a through and through, clearly made by sword energy. Talk, where did you run off to? Heart tensing, Zhuo Fan gave the old man a look. He clearly knew everything despite questioning him, so all he could do was admit it. Senior, you're so astute and I can't hide anything. I was curious, explored someplace, and got this little scratch for my troubles. Boy, you sure are deceitful. Using your teammates that were toying with heaven-trailing sect, you sneaked away to check out the sacred mine. Not even the exalted double dragons figured you out. Boy, your plan was brilliant. Ha ha ha, you're too kind, Senior. Did it not fail to pull the wool over Senior's brilliant eyes? Zhuo Fan grinned at Danking Shen, flattering him whenever he could. The way he saw it since Danking Shen had left Double Dragon Manor ages ago, he came to him after finding him out. It was a clear sign the old man wanted to negotiate something, so Zhuo Fan was working to lighten the mood and see what he wanted. Sparing him a glance, Danking Shen sneered, easy on the flattery, boy. I needed one look and knew something was off about the show you pulled on heaven-trailing sect. Why did each disciple go after their prey and then return to that valley, all except you? Why were you so late for the show? Then there was the fight with Demon Soul Sect. It was clear from your demeanor that there was something with your right hand, though just a hunch. Now that I see it myself, it all became clear. You got guts, boy. The sacred mine is Double Dragon Manor's territory, yet you dare go in? Talk, who sent you? What is their purpose? Danking Shen barked. Zhuo Fan shrugged, muttering for a bit. Senior, you're only fussing over trifles. No one sent me. I didn't even know there'd be a sacred mine in that place. I just felt that spiritual energy was incredibly thick when I entered, so curiosity got the best of me, and I went to check it out. I never thought it would lead to such a careless mistake and got wounded. Careless, you say? Who are you trying to fool? Danking Shen mocked. The sacred mines aren't important just for Double Dragon Manor, but the entire Western lands. While the mine's interference prevented an array from being set up, thousands of monitoring arrays existed before it. There's no way you could have bypassed them without inside help, and not just you. Even I, a former Double Dragon Manor disciple, have no idea where they've changed those monitoring arrays' positions, and just touching one of them will instantly get the two old coots on you. It may look like light protection when in fact it's at the highest. It's like casting thousands of eyes on that place, taking in your every movement. Zhuo Fan's brow shook. So the monitoring arrays were placed by the Exalted in person. He had just skirted the two old guys' traps under their noses. Zhuo Fan sighed. That was close. How fortunate I'm an array master and a good one enough not to run into any of them. Glancing over, Danking Shen resumed the inquiry. Talk. Why did you come here? Who's your contact in the Double Dragon Manor? Senior, I won't lie to you. I was just curious and took a look, that's all. Zhuo Fan chuckled. As for those monitoring arrays, I just had to read the terrain and energy flow to find them out. I always stepped in their blind spot, going in and out without a sign. I had no devious ploy at all. Danking Shen's heart shook, looking at Zhuo Fan in shock and doubt. Those were set up by the Exalted themselves and hidden very well. Yet you saw them at a glance. Senior, my low cultivation might not show it, but I'm a 10th grade array master. Also, this is just what I can do now. If we discuss insights and theories in arrays, my accomplishments are way higher. Rolling his eyes, Zhuo Fan's face was solemn. I was a little nervous about when the two Exalted might find me in the short time I had, or I could have just broken them, you know. Danking Shen looked at him, filled with skepticism. He did not believe him at first. The two Exalted set them up themselves, and you, a snot-nosed brat, up and said you could break them. Even talent has limits. However, Zhuo Fan's confidence was too genuine to write it off as acting. Seeing hesitation play on his face, Zhuo Fan broke his thoughts with a smile. Senior, what do you need of me? How can I be of help? Boy, you've been caught messing around. Now you want to drag me into it too? Ha ha ha, Senior, you can't say that when it's you who came here for something. Now you approached me with the intent to test my limits, so how can it be all my fault? Zhuo Fan chuckled and shook his head. Danking Shen's eyes flashed, praising his sharp mind, but his voice was still the same. Boy, I only came to check something and not for anything else. Stop your wild guessing. Oh, senior, you're really. Haha, can't you be a little frank with me? Zhuo Fan shook his head, annoyed. Senior, you're not part of Double Dragon Manor. Since you found my secret trip to the sacred mine, you had no reason to come and question me. Yet you came nevertheless. For you to keep asking me about my contact only means you have two purposes. One, you still care about Double Dragon Manor and want to protect it by removing the danger, though that could have been easily done by dropping a hint about my actions. That leaves the second purpose for yourself to eavesdrop. I think this one has a higher probability. Because that is your purpose, you need an insider who knows the ins and out of the current Double Dragon Manor. Didn't you say it yourself that you've been gone for ages? Eyeing Zhuo Fan, Danking Shen's beard shook. He chuckled and shook his head. You're one little freak, you know that. You saw through me down to the last detail. No wonder in the fight with Demon Soul Sect, you let Lu Zai, who has been at odds with you, step in instead of others who would have listened just the same. Because he will do a better job. Ha ha ha, when using others, one needs to consider every aspect. Lu Zai is petty and untrustworthy, though sometimes, for some things, only petty people can do them. Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted and snickered. Senior, what do you need of me? Please tell me. Danking Shen's eyes shook and he finally sighed, I want the sword that injured you. What? Zhuo Fan's eyes widened as he cried, sacred weapon. His heart tensed and his brow furrowed. He would never have thought Danking Shen's return to Double Dragon Manor was for the sacred weapon. Worse now that the said sacred weapon was now with him. Wouldn't Telling get himself killed and robbed? No, he can't know about this at all costs. Whatever I do, I must never allow him to suspect I have it. But when he reaches the cave, he'll know I have it when it's not there. How am I going to hide the truth? God damn it. What the hell is a top expert even doing setting his sights on a sacred weapon? It's a rarity even for me, so why should I just give it up? Seeing Zhuo Fan's heavy look, Danking Shen was suspicious. What did you just say? Sacred weapon? Who told you that? When I entered the cave, I saw a very dangerous longsword with sharp spirituality that actually moved by its own will. It almost took my little life. There's no way it's the same as spiritual weapons, so in a moment of inspiration, called it a sacred weapon, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan lied through his teeth as he started blabbing. Danking Shen nodded like it was natural. I see, it's something you named it yourself. I actually thought you knew Atlas Sword's history. Atlas Sword? Zhuo Fan gasped. Danking Shen nodded. Yes, the Atlas Sword. The continent's 5 regions all have a sacred mine. In the sacred mines, over eons, nature itself forged a divine sword to guard them. The Western lands is this Atlas Sword, the one I want to obtain. But, having left the Western lands long ago, I had lost my right to get it through normal means. All I can do is take it by force. Danking Shen sighed and shook his head. That's why I hope I can get the map showing me the way to the sacred mine and obtain Atlas Sword. So that's why, Zhuo Fan gave an understanding nod, though his frown deepened. But when I saw Atlas Sword, it was savage. It almost took my life and I barely escaped. Is Sir that sure that you can subdue it? Of course. Danking Shen beamed in pride. Atlas Sword is a sacred weapon of this world, incomparable to every other sword out there. Even someone at my level would have a very hard time subduing it. It also cannot leave the sacred mine, which makes it even harder. But I grew up training with it while at Double Dragon Manor. I will reflect on each other's thoughts to the point we are one. I once had the chance to have it. With enough sacred stones in my ring, the Atlas Sword would simply follow me instead. But then you know what happened. In my rage, I destroyed 10 sects, and the Exalted sealed that area, forcing me to leave. Otherwise, I would have long since taken the sacred sword and become almighty through all the lands. Zhuo Fan nodded, even as he was cooking a plan in his mind on how to dissuade the drunkard. So he said, since you didn't want it last time, why would you want it now? That's none of your business. Put in a difficult situation, Danking Shen grumbled and stared at Zhuo Fan with conviction. Boy, didn't you say you saw the way through the monitoring arrays? I don't care if it's the truth or not, I just want you to draw me a safe path and I'll make it worth your while. Well, Zhuo Fan was put on the spot, not knowing what to do. If he did that, it would be the same as sealing his fate. He could practically see Danking Shen reaching the cave only to see it empty of no sacred stones and no sacred weapon. After a brief moment of shock, he'd go berserk. Won't he kill me in his rage? Zhuo Fan felt like he was handing out the noose to string himself up. Senior, have you ever thought the sword might accept someone else before you? That's not possible, didn't I tell you? The sword has a will and won't just follow anyone. Unless, what? Zhuo Fan's eyes lit up with hope. Danking Shen's mood darkened, unless the Exalted kept the sword distracted. Atlas Sword has been under the Exalted's care, and it would definitely listen. If they wanted to move it, it would obey. Oh, in other words, you're not the sword's true love. Zhuo Fan bobbed his head and sighed inside. I can rest easy knowing there's a convenient scapegoat around. Therefore, he took out a blank jade slip, imprinted it with the right path, and then presented it to Danking Shen. At this moment, they were in this together, with no one able to sell out the other. Danking Shen took it and laughed. Great, now I can do it. Ha ha ha, thank you, boy, it's no trouble. Senior is a straightforward person, and I'm sure helping Senior will definitely not go unnoticed. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan waved him off with an innocent face, even when his words had obvious implications. Danking Shen's face twitched. I just knew that when I told you my reason, you'd try haggling with me. Spill it, what do you want? I'll do all I can to achieve it. Senior, how can you say that? I'm not petty, a mere map is nothing. Zhuo Fan faked modesty. Danking Shen rolled his eyes and mocked. Save it. With your keen mind, I could tell you're not one to lose out on anything. Now I am owing you a favor, and who knows what you'll do that'll make me have a hard time. No, I have to repay it today. Oh, then what does sir think it's an appropriate reward that can compare with a sacred weapon? Zhuo Fan grinned. His smile twisted, but he never asked for anything, letting him come up with the price. This is all appealing to one's conscience. Moreover, there's no way a big shot like you would be stingy with a junior. Glaring at Zhuo Fan, Danking Shen shook his head. Boy, you're truly sharp to make me say it so that you won't lose out at all. An old man like me can't dupe a kid, either. I planned on giving you a cultivation method or martial arts, but never mind. Since you said it has to match the worth of the sword, a mere cultivation method will look like an insult. True, so very true. Zhuo Fan bobbed his head, his grin ever present. He didn't care about any manuals. What could the mortal domain ever come up with that was worthy of his attention? What he wanted was a true expert's promise. Now that was the true reward. Danking Shen pondered for a bit, then clapped. Fine then, I'll make this an exception and give you a secret art I created personally. This is sure to be enough. Danking Shen's hand flashed and a green jade slip rested in his palm. Zhuo Fan took it and squinted once he read, Twin Soul Art. Right, that's the one. Danking Shen nodded, smiling. Boy, you are so much like me back in the day, just as talented and proud. Senior, you call this a reward? Of a sort, yet also yes, because we all form our souls in the radiant stage. Danking Shen's eyes flashed and he gave a vague grin. Startled, Zhuo Fan looked lost. Who'd have thought he is another one with ethereal stage power in the radiant stage? Zhuo Fan knew that the reason for the mighty power he had right now was due to the azure flame, while Danking Shen just relied on himself to reach it. Now that was a true genius. Danking Shen beamed. Boy, did you really think you're the only genius? My talent wasn't any less than yours in those days. How else do you think I surpassed my two masters and earned the title of the strongest in Western lands? All my success is attributed to having twin souls. Danking Shen extended 2 fingers and they started glowing azure before touching Zhuo Fan's forehead. In a blink, Zhuo Fan's vision changed, appearing in a golden world. There a proud sword stood stalwart with a huge prismatic dragon winding around it, bearing its fangs and claws. It was none other than a heaven dragon soul. Zhuo Fan was back to reality. Senior, that's. Zhuo Fan's eyes widened in shock. Danking Shen smiled in pride. See that? Those are my twin souls. One is the sword soul and the other is the heaven dragon soul. They both exist at the same time, making my soul many times stronger than anyone else's. This is why I have become the best in Western lands. The next one to have it, boy, will be you, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan shook, his face overwhelmed by what he saw and heard. Twin souls had never appeared even in the sacred domain, since 2 souls meant they had to fight for supremacy. However, those 2 souls were peacefully coexisting in the same place. What's going on? Zhuo Fan's eyes glinted as they rested on the jade slip. So even the mortal domain has some nifty stuff. The formation of the soul usually only happens once in the ethereal stage, the culmination of one's spirit. Seeing Zhuo Fan staring intently at the jade slip, Danking Shen nodded and explained. However, Zhuo Fan, we are different. We've reached the culmination in the radiant stage and formed our souls. This way we can form our soul once again. Zhuo Fan turned solemn, listening to his every word. Danking Shen's eyes were hard as he warned, but this chance has some conditions. One of them is that the second soul forming has to be far stronger than the first, or the first soul would interfere and would make it harder. That's easy since it's obvious. Since I formed my soul in the radiant stage, my spirit would be stronger when I reached the ethereal stage. Zhuo Fan spoke like it was obvious. Danking Shen smiled and shook his head. Ha ha ha, to others that might be the case, but it will pose a challenge for you. Why do you say that? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow in doubt. Danking Shen's eyes shone as he continued. This is related to the second condition of the twin soul, no mountain is higher. Since the second soul has to expend your spirit, it must be stronger than the first soul so that it can suppress it and form. Otherwise, it's a failure. That, I see. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, already understanding what he was saying. Heaven Dragon Soul was world energy taking form, one of the best a soul could ever become. So what could possibly be stronger than a heaven dragon soul? Danking Shen saw through his worry and sighed. Alas, you did not meet me earlier. Or having seen how alike we are, I would have warned you when forming your first soul. Just like how I formed the sword soul first, then the heaven dragon soul to suppress it and accomplish the twin soul art. Senior, that's just hindsight. I refuse to believe that if you were presented with the chance to form the heaven dragon soul the first time, you would first wait for the sword soul. I bet you didn't even know twin soul was possible. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. Danking Shen's heart jerked, but he nodded. True. When I formed the sword soul, I had no chance of forming the heaven dragon soul first. However, it was this that gave me insight on how to achieve the twin soul of today. What if I form a second heaven dragon soul? Zhuo Fan's eyes lit up. Since the second soul had a hard time surpassing the first, making them equal was better. I'll just have to scour the world for some 10 more earth dragon souls. How hard could it be? However, Danking Shen shook his head. Boy, you know full well that a mountain ain't big enough for 2 tigers. If a man formed a twin soul of the same type, it would be a true toil. That is why a person can't have 2 beast souls. If you want them to coexist, they have to be different. When you try to form another heaven dragon soul, your first one won't just sit still. It will fight for its turf and will make sure you fail. Which takes us to the third condition, harmony. Take your room, for instance. You'd be annoyed if someone waltzed in yet wouldn't even bat an eye when an ant slipped in. Why is that? Because you don't see it as a threat to your interests. It is like you consider this room yours, and the ant will also see it as their nest. You live in harmony despite sharing the same room. I see. In other words, the heaven dragon soul sees your sword soul as nothing more than a prop. Heaven dragon soul is a reptile at the core, so the two have no conflict of interests, resulting in harmony. Zhuo Fan's eyes lit up. Danking Shen nodded. That's exactly it, child. While the spirit is unique, the soul is a twin one, resting within it in harmony. As for how to achieve this, it's all written down in that art. Do your best and read it carefully. This is as far as I'm going to help you, ha ha ha. But senior, while I can understand all the other stuff, how am I going to form a soul stronger than the heaven dragon soul? Please enlighten me, senior. Zhuo Fan pondered for a moment, then cupped his hands. Danking Shen shook his head. I have no solution either. It's all down to luck, ha ha ha. Danking Shen turned around and was gone. He ran away. In any case, I returned the favor and freed myself of this tie. Your success will now solely rest on your shoulders. I'm powerless anyway, ha ha ha. Wait, senior, Zhuo Fan hastily said, but he no longer sensed the old man around. Damn you, old coot, and your wretched favor. You gave me some twin soul art and got me intrigued, only to leave me high and dry when it's the hardest. What now? I know this strange art is nearly impossible to train in, but now I'm so piqued I can't let it go. Damn ungrateful old geezer, you clearly used it to lure me. How am I supposed to form a soul stronger than that dragon soul? Your secret special art is useless to me. But then Zhuo Fan thought differently. Danking Shen wants the sacred weapon that I got before him. The map I drew for him will just lead him to nothing. So this isn't a favor, but a practical joke. So he no longer felt cheated. It's up to me to make the most of this. What matters is that I got away scot-free. There's no point in worrying over it any longer. And so, Zhuo Fan's hand flashed, and Blood Infant came out of his body and turned into that demonic sword he was now holding. Looking at the pommel, he did find the word Atlas engraved on it. Oh, Atlas sword, I was in such a rush then that I had no time to find out your name. Now I see it really is what that old guy wants. I just hope he never comes back to me to get it, or I'm finished. Zhuo Fan traced the blade as he said. However, just then the old voice of Danking Shen sounded again. By the way, boy, I don't think you'll ever get to hide your wound in battle. If the two exalted find out, you'll be in trouble. Senior, you're back. Startled, Zhuo Fan hurriedly stuck the sword in his gut, running his body through it, making him grimace as blood seeped. The longsword snickered and turned into Blood Infant before hiding in his body. Glaring at his gut, Zhuo Fan crunched his teeth. Is this guy blind? The old man is back, and yet it still delayed hiding. What if he found out? Fortunately, the wound this time was just skin deep. So Zhuo Fan ignored his self-injury and replied, Thank you for your concern, senior, but I have a brilliant plan. Oh, that's good. But just in case misfortune takes you, you had better not drag me in as well and just say what happened to you. Or else, Danking Shen smiled coldly and sighed, what a shame you got so many eyes on you. I would have nipped this trouble from the start just to keep a clear conscience, but it will only have the opposite effect right now. Zhuo Fan's cheek twitched, and he rolled his eyes at the old guy's whining. This guy takes matters into his own hands. Thank God I'm a shower and everyone's now interested in me. He won't touch me or it'll make things worse. Otherwise, if nobody discovered his secret, he'd be wiped off the face of this world. Since the outside of his room was quiet, he figured the old guy had left. Zhuo Fan eased a breath and looked at the jade slip in his hand. Humph, might as well hang on to it just in case. I'll know more after I inspect it thoroughly. Zhuo Fan started reading the jade slip carefully. His face shook as he delved deeper. The more he read, the more excited he got. Danking Shen is a true genius to come up with such a mystical art. Such a shame he's from mortal domain and had a poor start. If he were from a sacred domain, he might reach saint level. On the morrow, the arena was packed in minutes. All were pushing and rushing to get the best seat, excited for what would follow. After all, this battle had great significance, that of the greatest underdog that ever lived fighting the strongest middle three sect, Sword God sect. Sword God sect was also recognized as one to be just under a superior three sect. In other words, if Demon Scheming sect won this challenge, they would threaten the positions of the superior three sects. Be it the national delegates or the other sect teams, all were here to watch history being made. The chances were high that Western land's status quo and sphere of interests would shift after this fight. One more reason why they should pay close attention. King Cheng, the superior three sects are here as well. Look at how serious they are. They must feel threatened. Shui Ruohu pointed at a few sects as she spoke in shock. Tell me, do you really think Demon Scheming sect threatens the superior three sects that had been unchanged for thousands of years? Chu King Cheng had a radiant smile. When he steps in, no one's position is ever safe. I've seen it happen so many times it has become a common occurrence. The bigger and stronger they are, the more likely they are to be thrown down from their throne by him. It's only natural to feel nervous, ha ha ha. Sister King Cheng, you believe in him that much. The next four sects are in an entirely different league than the ones before. Danner fluttered her big eyes. Chu King Cheng's expression never changed. He is a miracle worker. If there's anything he wants to do, then nothing is impossible. I do not doubt it. The rest's hearts chilled looking at her. Only Xuan Sheiyu's face turned heavy and morose. Whoosh, the judge was back in the center of the stage. He bowed before the exalted double dragons sitting in the highest spots and then shouted, "Disciples of Demon Scheming sect and Sword God sect, enter." As his words fell, the two groups walked in. Sword God sect was led by Wen Tao, though he seemed to have lost his casual nature, now sporting a grave and serious look. Demon Scheming sect was led by Zhuo Fan, of course, only this time they were just 9, bearing Lu Zai. It was clear that the guy got the worst wounds yesterday and could not fight. With the two sides' disciples in the arena, the judge looked from one to another, then spoke to Zhuo Fan. Demon Scheming sect has only 9 participants and is at a disadvantage. Do you have a replacement? Thank you for your concern, Elder. Demon Scheming sect cares about quality and not quantity. We will fight even if we are missing one man. Zhuo Fan cupped his hands, striking a heroic figure and earning the respect and admiration of the crowd. The judge nodded and turned to Wen Tao for his response. Wen Tao simply smiled and cupped his hands to him and the Demon Scheming sect. My Sword God sect is not one to take advantage of one's moment of weakness, but Demon Scheming sect is just so strong that we have to take it seriously. Even if it had only one person remaining, Brother Zhu, we'd still fight him, all 10 of us as determined as ever. That's why, ha ha ha, Brother Zhu, please show leniency. Brother Wen is too polite. Zhu Fan cupped his hands as well, his eyes flashing. Wen Tao sure is slick and charismatic. He is devoid of the arrogance that plagues those with status, bereft of a loser's cowardice. Instead, he shows a humble and steadfast attitude, his kindness hiding a ruthless nature. He does not lose his pride and does not flaunt it either. While this won't make him outstanding, he does garner respect with his amiable nature. Just like they say, the gentle sword is sharp and smooth. Since both sides agree, we will begin the match. The judge flicked his hand and shouted, "Open the dimension." The last battle of the middle three sects challenge stage between Demon Scheming sect and Sword God sect begins. Whoosh, those two elders once again walked on stage and opened a path to the valley. Wen Tao smiled and offered kindly, "Brother Zhu, after you." "Oh no, Brother Wen, after you." Zhu Fan returned his gesture and the two sides vanished in a white flash. The audience was in awe. The Demon Scheming sect isn't savage to everyone who walks their way. At the very least, towards the Demon Soul sect and the Sword God sect, one demonic and the other righteous, they look quite friendly. That meant Heaven Trailing sect's brutal fate wasn't without reason. You're just too cocky. Why would the other give you any respect if you start threatening another? Soon, the people came to an understanding of the sect's demeanor. Demon Soul sect was one to value duty and gratitude. Sword God sect stood on ceremony, and Demon Scheming sect responded with the same coin depending on their adversary. As for Heaven Trailing sect, the eyes of the crowd turned to their location to see just 2 people. Ren Kong, among them, looked bitter and stared at Zhuo Fan with all the hatred he could muster. This attitude earned the people's contempt. Showing off gets you killed off, idiot. Suddenly, the hearts of the people had made their choice. If the status of the nine sects shifted in this competition, some strong empires would take the initiative to invite certain sects among them. The benefits, of course, would be greater for both sides. While demon-scheming sect's cruel act on the heaven-trailing sect had earned their disgust, the next two matches showed how heroic they were, changing the public's view. As for the disgust, it was all shifted to heaven-trailing sect. They were sure of it now that they deserved what they got. Who told you to be rampant? A petty and unceasingly pedantic sect will never have enough. In this manner, the funders wrote heaven-trailing sect as the worst sect to have. Unless they had absolutely no choice in the matter, they'd never accept it. Otherwise, they would shoot down any attempts this sect had to come to their lands. As if he could sense everyone's despise and disgust, Ren Kong glared at them and they balked in fear. Then Ren Kong turned back to hating Zhuo Fan with gnashed teeth. Wasn't he the victim here? How did he earn public ire after all he had been through? It made no sense. Elder Qi grumbled, his face heavy. However, just then a faint voice reached their ears. Elder Qi, young Master Ren, my master would like to send a message to sect leader Ren. Would you care to talk? Who are you? The two turned around and saw someone covered in all black, shaking and instilling a feeling of weakness. As if a light breeze could topple him, his head hung low, blocking his face. When he rose his head, his pale face was there for all to see, shocking the two to the core. Lu Zai, what do you want? Meanwhile, Zhuo Fan's team had returned to the valley. Just like last time, he jumped back and said to Wen Tao, like I said, who could get on my level? Before he finished, Wen Tao's teasing came. I knew you'd do this, so I came up with the perfect way to deal with your 8 bodyguards. 8, Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow and mocked. You're an ethereal stage expert, and I have 6 that can match you. Though 1 is down with wounds, 5 is still enough. So where did you come up with 8? Besides, all 10 of you are ethereal stage experts. You could easily handle them. Ha ha ha, that just won't do. Since Brother Zhu set up this trial, I must brave it myself. Won't I earn Brother Zhu's contempt by using my junior brothers to resolve problems? Wen Tao smiled. The other 9 sword god sect disciples, Zai Tianxing included, nodded. They stepped back and looked solemn, determined not to get involved. Qi Changlong squinted and grew angry. Wen Tao, are you saying you can take us 8 together by yourself? Humph, talk about arrogance. You might be in the 4th layer, but we have 2 in the 3rd layer, 1 in the 2nd layer, 2 in the 1st layer, and 5 ethereal stage experts. Not even you can beat us, that remains to be seen. Wen Tao sneered, sometimes a difference in cultivation does not reflect a difference in strength. Brother Zhu is the perfect example of this, always able to overcome the gap in the most overwhelming fashion. While we are just 1 layer apart, our strengths are another matter altogether, ha ha ha. Wen Tao chuckled and shot forth, Brother Zhu, you'll be fighting soon enough. This is just a warm-up. In mere moments I'll deal with these guys who won't be able to do anything. What nerve, you take us for nothing, is that it? Think you will reach Steward Zhu that fast? Qi Changlong huffed and made a sign. In an instant, a seal 100 meters high appeared overhead and slammed down on Wen Tao. Wen Tao couldn't care less, leisurely pointing 2 fingers ahead. Whoosh, a sword wave clashed with the huge seal, sending it flying. It then disappeared midway, having returned to Qi Changlong. Qi Changlong shuddered and spat blood. He sank to his knees, unable to get up again. What? Only 1 blow? The crowd was in an uproar, unable to believe their eyes. To them, Qi Changlong was second in strength to Zhuo Fan. They never thought it possible just a layer difference, even when the soul was taken out, would still be defeated after 1 blow. Such a difference made no sense. All turned grave as they watched Wen Tao. Even Zhuo Fan, though he did not care much, he did have a vague smile. Sorry, Brother Qi, I went easy and you should just lie there for 6 hours and you'll be fine. Wen Tao walked on, speaking words of comfort to Qi Changlong, as if to show sympathy for the loser. But the look he got from Qi Changlong was that of refusal and indignation. This is naked humiliation. Wen Tao wasn't one to be outrageous, maybe not even aiming to humiliate him. Still, having his all-out attack flicked away by a finger, this was the 2nd time this top genius of demon scheming sect had received guidance, bearing Zhuo Fan. This was the gap in strength. This was the gap between the top of the middle 3 sects and the lower 3 sects. Yes, they were challenging the superior 3 sects, but all knew full well who the instigator was. Other than a freak like Zhuo Fan, who could even take on superior 3 sects disciples, the rest were still lower 3 sects material. No matter what tricks Zhuo Fan used to grow them to a middle 3 sect level, a mere clash with a true genius of a middle 3 sect showed just how far they still were. Even Heaven Trailing Sect and their cowardly disciples, did they not have the Kong twins? Those 2 beat all 6 of them like nothing. Only when Zhuo Fan stepped in were they dealt with. In Demon Soul Sect's match, Han Yunfeng was clearly weaker than them by a layer, but he pushed on 1 fight after the next. Ignoring the last 3, the first 3 fights were done at full power. He fought 3 people and still won. This time they were up against Wen Tao, the strongest in the middle three sects. Only now it dawned on them just how lacking they were. Qi Chenglong looked up at Bai Lion to see her use all she had but ended up defeated in the same brief manner as he was. Wen Tao went through them with practiced ease, like they weren't even worth the attention. When Tao was called the gentle sword, his mind was sharp and he paid close attention to courtesy. He held no contempt for any of them. But even so, it was because of their profound weakness that it made this upstanding peer brush them off. It gave Qi Chenglong a deep feeling of powerlessness. Middle three sects and lower three sects were different breeds. They might earn a middle three sect spot, but catching up to a real middle three sect would take years and years of hard work. Steward Zhuo had taken them here, but it was up to them to do the rest. Qi Chenglong sighed within, having come to a decision. When Tao walked forward freely and unfettered. Gui Hu, Qi Lang, and Yue Ling weren't startled, choosing to attack him together. When Tao, don't think that you'll have it any easier just because you took down senior brother Qi and Bai. However, Gui Hu's words were met with 3 muffled sounds. When Tao popped behind them the next second. Then their necks stiffened and froze on the spot, only to collapse soon after. Sorry, you're not enough to block my path. When Tao smiled as he turned to Yuer, Tai Ying, and Kui Gang, the 3 in the radiant stage. The trio's faces fell, unnerved and unsettled. When Tao gave a warm smile, saying, "We'll take care of your freakish steward in a moment, so please stay down and don't disturb us." When Tao swiped 2 fingers in front of the trio and they fell powerlessly. The demon scheming sect's disciples, except Zhuo Fan, were on the ground. Sword God sect had yet to suffer a single defeat. Moreover, all was quickly done by Wen Tao himself. It made all the onlookers speechless from shock. A single man had almost defeated the biggest underdog of the competition. Such power was unheard of. Even the superior 3 sects disciples were stirring. I never thought Wen Tao would be so strong. Sword God sect's disciples truly are worthy to be in the superior 3 sects. As long as Wu Qinkyu looked intently at the fighting in the valley, especially at the lone Zhuo Fan, this final roadblock is removed. Then we'll be meeting Sword God sect in a challenge. Yanmo squinted but mocked. That's just it, the biggest roadblock and Sword God sect's biggest headache. Wen Tao only got rid of the small fries, leaving this dragon of the deeps alone. Even if all 10 gang up, they might not defeat him. Oh, now that you mention it, we've never seen all 10 of Sword God sect's team fight together. Yet you're saying they can't measure up to Zhuo Fan? Wu Qinkyu looked astounded at Yan Mo. I admit Zhuo Fan is tough, but Sword God sect is no pushover either. If there will be 10 against 1, I do believe the odds are even. Yan Mo gave him a long look, then shook his head. That's because you never took on the punk's fist. I'll have to agree with Yan Mo on this. The final winner in this fight is Zhuo Fan, without a doubt. Yilin nodded. Wu Qinkyu gave him an odd look and chuckled. Junior brother, are you that certain? You didn't fight him either, do you have to ask? Since he's my archenemy, I am more than sure. If he can't even deal with this little scuffle, how is he worthy of being my fated rival? Yilin smiled, but then he turned serious. And I can sense that the berserk power within him is no less than mine. If I could cope with mine, then he had to have subdued it as well. Eyeing him, Wu Qinkyu nodded his head and resumed watching the fight. On the other side, at Mystical Heaven Sect, the girls were restless in their worry for Zhuo Fan. Danner even pointed at the solitary figure, Sister King Cheng. He's now alone against 10. Will he be fine? Shui Ruohua furrowed her brows and turned to Chu King Cheng, eager for her reply. Humph, facing the strongest in the middle 3 sects, the punk's done for he. Xuan Sheu got ahead of Chu King Cheng, enjoying his predicament. This earned a roll of the eye from the girls. They just could not understand where their refined young master had gone to. Ever since the matter with Yan Mo, their young master was becoming more and more sinister, incurring their dislike. Chu King Cheng did not mind his rude interjection. She looked at Zhuo Fan in complete confidence. No need to worry. He has always been alone. Having a few people around cheering for him won't matter since whenever he faces someone, it's always by himself, alone. But this is a team battle. He never once thought about relying on others. The girls frowned as they saw Zhuo Fan's tranquil gaze. It was as if having all his teammates taken out by Wen Tao meant nothing. Wen Tao noticed it as well, and he became even more solemn. Everyone knew that man, by nature, was a social animal. Even a loner would, more often than not, become dependent on the people around him. They would always feel something when these people come to harm. Even if these people proved useless, the time spent alongside them proved this would happen. However, Zhuo Fan didn't so much as twitch. He was like a sword stuck in a huge rock, proud and unmarred by anyone that approached it. Like he wasn't part of the demon scheming sect, and its disciples had nothing to do with him. To this guy, beating demon scheming sect doesn't equal defeating him. Suddenly, Wen Tao chuckled and his face grew hard. Ha ha ha, looks like we're just going to start fighting again. Wen Tao's hand flashed and was now holding a greenish sword that oozed sharpness, a ninth-grade spiritual weapon no doubt, and charged at Zhuo Fan. Dealing with the earlier small fries, he treated it like a game. However, he was facing Zhuo Fan now, and taking out his spiritual weapon showed how deadly serious he was in this fight, investing in it with all his being. Empty gray sword wind, whooshed just like a shooting start. When Tao stabbed at Zhuo Fan with his sword, the sharp energy around it was so acute it could almost cut space itself. He was on him in an instant. Zhuo Fan's heart jumped even as his face remained still. He smirked as his right eye shone in 4 golden halos. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, Space Crusher, boom. As if the space itself exploded, all plants 100 meters around Zhuo Fan started to shake and drift away into nothingness. Wen Tao started and shot back in haste, but his sword was in the range of Space Crusher, constantly moving and dissipating the spatial disturbance. At the same time, that dissipated spatial power turned into a rumbling power flowing unabated in Space Crusher's range. This is sword energy that can wander inside Space Crusher. Zhuo Fan cried out, damn it. Too little, too late. The sword energy roaming in Space Crusher focused on the sword, and Wen Tao made a sign. The sword energy gathered on the sword released a powerful force that tore an opening in Space Crusher. And the sword made a beeline for Zhuo Fan using this gap. PFF, scarlet blood flowed. Zhuo Fan raised his right to block in a panic, but the sword ran his hand through. However, neither the audience nor the fighters noticed Zhuo's sly smile. A great hit, this will do well. Ah, scarlet blood dripped on the ground, dyeing the earth red. Zhuo Fan's face throbbed as his face slowly took on a much darker tone. Until now, his nigh-invincible right arm was twitching in correlation with the pain it sent. Mystical heaven sex girls gasped, filled with worry. Danner was frantic. Sister King Cheng H's hurt badly. Lightly furrowing her brow, Chu King Cheng's heart tightened in silence. She had complete and utter confidence in Zhuo Fan that no matter what he faced or when this man would always come out on top. Even now, her belief hadn't been stirred. Yet despite this, she could still feel pain and worry for him when she saw Zhuo Fan's bloody right hand. This was Chu King Cheng's stance. She saw herself as nothing less than Zhuo Fan's woman. If a woman did not trust her man, then she could never call herself his to begin with. However, she would keep her eyes on her man, and the slightest wound would fill her with worry. It might sound contradictory, and it was. Why worry when you believed he would win? This worry proved, in fact, you didn't believe him. This was the nature of women, filled with contradictions yet emotional to the core, trust and tenderness. Looking at Chu King Cheng, her eyes filled with worry and anxiety, Shui Ruohua's opinion of her never fell. It occurred to her then and there, and she looked back at Zhuo Fan with a sigh. It looks helpless and bitter, but I yearn for it. How is this possible? I had never managed to scratch him, and a measly Wen Tao ends up piercing that freak's arm. Yan Mo was overwhelmed by such a radical development on the screen that he shouted his indignation. Wu Qinkyu eyed him, then smiled. Yan Mo, aren't you a bit too conceited? I find Wen Tao just a layer under you, but no less weak. Coupled with the fact he made a sneak attack while exercising caution, Zhuo Fan was bound to be hit hard. Maybe he underestimated his opponent since he was from a middle 3 sect. Brow shaking, Yan Mo was still incredulous an almighty expert like Zhuo Fan, who resisted him every step of the way, would make such a gross miscalculation as overlooking sneak attacks. Especially when he could still hear Zhuo Fan's patronizing and preaching words. Sure, they were insufferable, but every word showed just how cautious this freak was, meticulous to the core. So how the hell would he suddenly turn sloppy in the face of challenging the middle 3 sect's strongest sect? It was too basic a mistake to make. What if it's on purpose? While Yan Mo was using every bit of brainpower to figure out just what he saw, a faint voice pierced the fog. Yilin's sharp eye never left Zhuo Fan, his brow furrowed, his face solemn. Wu Qinkyu raised an eyebrow, puzzled. Junior brother, where did that come from? Yan Mo looked at him as well, eager for the reply. Just a hunch, nothing more. Yilin shook his head and said, I don't believe he ever underestimates his enemy and makes such a gross mistake by taking this fight as trivial. The only plausible explanation is that he did it on purpose. Rolling his eyes, Wu Qinkyu shook his head and sighed, Junior brother, you're just too stubborn. No one is perfect and we all make mistakes. Just because you find someone that caught your eye doesn't mean only you can beat him. Can't the rest of us have a sliver of chance as well? You try finding anyone who agrees with that logic, ha ha ha. Yan Mo's face twitched, but he shook his head in the end, thinking, here, I thought this guy is great, but only has this dumb reason. Yilin spared them a brief glance, but said nothing. He kept staring at Zhuo Fan with all his focus to see if he could find anything that unraveled the mystery. While Wu Qinkyu and Yan Mo didn't understand Yilin's reasoning, there was one person in this vast audience that saw through Zhuo Fan. In the shadows, a glittering pair of eyes blinked at Zhuo Fan's right, now gushing with blood, with a smirk. Ha ha ha, this punk is cunning indeed. He actually found such a grandstanding way of hiding his wounded arm. Danking Shen held his beard as he smiled in amazement. The kid could scout the sacred mine, and the wound he got from Atlas' sword could only be hidden for so long. I never dreamed he would think of using someone to strike his wound and hide its origins. I don't think there'd be any more reasonable explanation than this, but what is truly shocking is he actually went with it. He used his sect's disciples in the fight with Demon Soul sect to stall. He didn't fight Han Yunfeng because the kid was too weak. If he ended up wounding this grand dark horse, then it would only raise suspicion. However, if it was Wen Tao instead, his power fit the bill, making this kind of wound obvious. It's truly rare for someone like him to know patience and understand choices. Anyone else thinking this plan would not consider every detail and would just fake being wounded in the fight with Demon Soul sect. And that would have had the opposite effect, ha ha ha. Danking Shen chuckled. His strength and sharp mind make him a marvel of this world. I would have taken this boy along if I had not come for the sword this time and didn't want to raise alarm. Sigh, what a shame. Shaking his head, Danking Shen's figure was gone from the shadows. Meanwhile, with a groan, Wen Tao made a sign, and the sword stuck in Zhuo Fan's right flew back in his hand. Gazing at the bright edge of his sword and then at Zhuo Fan's red arm, Wen Tao's brow was furrowed in puzzlement. Even he found it hard to believe he could land such a heavy blow. But then he cupped his hands in respect. Ha ha ha, brother Zhuo, sorry. I hope you will overlook my overbearing attack. It's fine since I won't be going easy either. Zhuo Fan flicked his right and splattered the blood covering it on the ground. His face was heavy and his voice was low as if enraged, though no one figured out yet that his heart was dancing in joy. Now I don't have anything to worry about and can let loose, ha ha ha. When Tao's face twitched, brother Zhuo, it wasn't on purpose. I didn't mean to give you such a heavy wound. I was only distraught by brother Zhuo's power but never imagined. You mean to say I don't live up to my name, that I'm not so tough to even take one hit? Is that it? Zhuo Fan faked anger. Then brother Wen, allow me to show you all that I'm capable of. Now I can't waste brother Wen's kind intentions, can I? Wen Tao's mouth twitched and he shook his head. But then his gaze steeled. Let's go. Since brother Zhuo wants to let loose, then I'll be happy to oblige. Wen Tao swung his sword and an invisible ripple shot from its edge straight for Zhuo Fan. However, unlike the brash space crusher's way of unleashing its power, the sword's vibrations were gentle, like silken threads drifting with the winds. As a dinghy on wave doth drift, and willow branch bend in the wind so swift, never more than a finger lift. Such is the way of peace and gift. With that poem, Wen Tao pointed at his sword and smiled. Brother Zhuo, the name of this sword is Ephemeral Life, a gentle and aloof sword. It drifts with the world and stands free of burden. It is not a sword meant for brute force but refined and carefree in nature. But even gentleness has power. Even it can take a life. Do take care, brother Zhuo. Zhuo Fan's heart sank and he understood his meaning. In Space Crusher, everything was pulverized, yet this sword's sword energy remained because it used softness to glide through brute force. However, while the sword looked soft, it was hard. Only when combined with that gentle sword energy could it release such a power that could break Space Crusher. Recalling the sword's name, Zhuo Fan had figured out everything. Such is the way of peace and gift. This did not mean it was weak, but it was crafty and ready to pounce when the time was right. While a breeze could not shift a mountain, it can move me with it, thus borrowing its power with time and unleashing it all at the right time. This was the meaning of the sword's name and what made gentle sword Wen Tao deadly. Gentleness acted as entrapment, while hardness struck one's defenses, ending everything in a split second just like before. Having understood all about his opponent, he also had the perfect response. Raw power could not beat gentleness as it was meant to carry it. Only through destruction and instant annihilation could he finish this before the opponent gathered momentum. Zhuo Fan sported a vague grin with purple lightning arching around his right hand. The fist turned into a dragon claw ready to rip the sky. When Tao was startled, his face twitching. Did I just talk too much? Showing off allowed this punk to find my sword's weakness. Wen Tao felt like smacking himself hard to wake up. Brother Zhuo is truly an astute man, able to understand my gentle sword. Ha ha ha. Wen Tao glanced at the purple lightning and let out a strained laugh. Zhuo Fan grinned. You're far too kind. It's brother Wen who explained it to me. It's truly a dumb thing to show off all your cards before the fight even begins. But today, I witnessed brother Wen's actions and heard your words. Now I have a whole new view of it. Brother Wen didn't do it out of foolishness, but as a generous gentleman, ha ha ha. Everyone watching the fight burst out laughing. Wen Tao looked bashful. Maybe regardless of being a fool or a gentleman, I'm sure with brother Zhuo's perception, you would have noticed it after a couple of moves without even me saying it. Rather revealing this before the fight to everyone so that I would be seen as open-minded. However, knowing my sword and defeating it are two different things. Wen Tao smiled and raised his sword. He flicked it and sent several sword energies straight for Zhuo Fan. Brother Zhuo, take this gentle sword, ever-flowing and ever-changing. Whoosh, Zhuo Fan's heart sank and he got himself ready. The purple lightning on his right hand crackled, but as the sword energies reached him, they turned soft, floating in the air and surrounded him, trapping him in their center. Wen Tao waved his sword again and sent more sharp sword energy at Zhuo Fan, turning into thousands of strands in a blink of an eye. However, like before, the sword energy turned soft right before reaching Zhuo Fan, drifting in the wind. He was now trapped in a quagmire of sword energy, with no way out. Fiend Yang turned grave and facepalmed. This punk is just too cocky. He not once came to see the middle three sects stage and has no idea what Wen Tao can do with this attack. He is caught in thousands of strands, unable to break free of the sword energy. Be it Heaven Trailing Sect or Demon Soul Sect, neither could escape it when it was unleashed in their team battles. While Zhuo Fan was tougher, it was still unknown if he could pull it off. Fiend Yang and Fiend Yin were looking very tense. The one who was in the center of this entrapment looked far more relaxed by comparison. Zhuo Fan just grinned and used his right dragon claw to swipe. Along with the crackling, the purple lightning destroyed any sword energy it touched. The purple lightning has the power to destroy the world. While its power is lacking, its character is one of destruction. Wen Tao's gentle sword energy had just met its nemesis. Yilin showed a hint of a smile, but then he turned solemn. However, I'm sure Wen Tao is aware of it as well. But since he does something so pointless, he must have a backup plan. Wu Qinkyu and Yan Mo gave Yilin a deep look, then returned to the fight with a nod. Just as this genius of the superior three sects said, the sword energy strands got crushed, but Wen Tao showed no worry. Making a sign, Wen Tao made the struck sword energy that floated about. As a result, to enter the sword in his hand, Zhuo Fan noticed, to his amazement, that ephemeral life exploded in power. Zhuo Fan's heart shook, and he understood gentle sword's true meaning. It's to drift alongside you like the wind until you are squeezed to death. These gentle sword energy strands acted like a fence. If one started bashing it, the sword energy fragments would return to the sword and turn from soft to hard, greatly bolstering its power. The source of this power was, on one hand, the soft sword energy gathering on the sword, and on the other, the power of the adversary fueled within the blade. This way, the more he let it drag out, the worse it would be for him. So that's why he said that knowing and defeating it are different things. Regardless, once his strands are out, he holds the advantage. Unless one uses force, there's no quick way to end it. Ha ha ha, how amusing. Since this is the case, I'll punch right through. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed and shot for Wen Tao. But just then, under Wen Tao's urging, the soft sword energy strands plugged the gap, and Zhuo Fan was trapped again. However, Zhuo Fan, having seen his tricks, there was no way he would let himself get stalled again. So he swiped his lightning-streaked claw. Roar. With a draconic roar, the purple lightning-fueled claw crushed the soft sword energy, clearing a path. Zhuo Fan took the next second to get out of the circle. The scattered pieces of sword energy gathered on the sword, but the remaining soft sword energy strands had no time to block Zhuo Fan again. Wen Tao's brow shook and his gestures changed. The soft sword energy turned hard, stabbing Zhuo Fan from all directions. Zhuo Fan grinned and flicked his right, shattering the strands with the purple lightning. Wen Tao raised an eyebrow and didn't dally. He changed his hand sign, and all the sword energy gathered on the sword. The sword's edge gleamed with unspeakable power at that moment. Zhuo Fan now finally arrived before Wen Tao and struck. Wraith-style second move, ghostly dragon claw, soft to hard, heaven-breaking sword. Wen Tao did not hesitate to stab straight for Zhuo Fan as well. In an instant, ephemeral life looked to have been soft all its existence and turned hard in this fleeting moment. With that stab, it was like the world's power fell on Zhuo Fan's shoulders. Zhuo Fan's claw came like a raging dragon, violent and overbearing. It was as if this claw was going to tear the world asunder. Clang. The claw and sword met in a screeching clash, a clash that only lasted for a split second before they separated. Zhuo Fan's body stood in his spot, his attack blocked, while Wen Tao was thrown tens of meters from the sudden force of impact. When he straightened up, he looked at Zhuo Fan in shock, puzzlement, and disbelief. What just happened? Why did a casual sword strike wound him so before, yet my all-out attack did nothing? He even managed to bounce me back. Just what is happening? Was he truly careless before? Is that why I hit him? Now that he's serious, there's no way of hurting him. This guy is strong to a terrifying degree. Gulping, Wen Tao showed no glee but unprecedented seriousness. The ones watching the fight had no idea what Zhuo Fan was really capable of, especially that ridiculous body of his. How is he still human when not even a 9th-grade spiritual weapon can't scratch him? While he was shocked, Zhuo Fan was even more so. His right hand used the world's power, that of the invincible sacred beast Qilin. It should be natural to win any encounter when it is involved. However, he never thought it possible to be blocked, leaving him depressed. Wen Tao is good. Gentle Sword is not only capable, but uses both soft and hard skills to perfection. They would scream if others knew he was depressed because of this tiny little detail. You're the damn violent brute here. Dude, you're depressed cause he blocked you. Then what about the rest of us? Should we be in the pits of despair? Luckily, he didn't show it, keeping it to himself as he went for Wen Tao again. He could see that Gentle Sword no longer had as much power in his sword as before. So all he had to do was strike fast before Wen Tao gathered some more power, which was when his sword would be defeated. Wu Shi reached Wen Tao in a flash and swiped with his claw. Wen Tao hurriedly blocked with his sword but was sent flying. The force pierced his innards and forced him to spit blood. Ha ha ha, I just knew it. You can never beat me directly without the Gentle Sword's accumulated power. Zhuo Fan did not pursue and smiled. Brother Wen, do you have any tricks? Use them now or surrender. Since you are a gentleman and courteous, I will reply in kind. When Tao looked long and hard at Zhuo Fan, I knew I couldn't match you alone. I was only testing you from the start. Knowing to back off when it's futile is something I told others, but I can never retreat. However, ha ha ha, brother Zhuo, the team battle is just getting started. Wen Tao's eyes flashed, and he stood up after wiping the blood from his mouth. The other 9 sword god sect disciples were now on the move.